Ladies and gentlemen, we have a real treat tonight on Sportswire Radio. Is the golden era is upon us once again. Now we've had him on here before, and a couple of months ago, as our Golden Eagles were getting ready for the Skyline Conference playoffs at the Max Stern Athletic Center, and he was certainly a big part of that. But he also was a huge part in why our Golden Eagles at the time had got one of the biggest wins in the school's history over the past decade. Certainly at the Max Stern Athletic Center, where he played arguably the best game of his career in college, and his journey took him from Smithtown to Smithtown West High School to Lebanon Valley to SJLI. And even now with Stony Brook, he has had quite a journey. And alongside me to talk about that journey is a man who has been a huge part of our Golden Eagles here now for the past several years, certainly. He is 27th all-time in school history and rebounds. Started the season in 25th, so he's working his way down the numbers here. I'm sure he'll go down a notch or two over the next year or two, but he's also near the top of the list all-time in block shots, and he also has his poster up there at the Dandy Center, but he's also doing a great job currently for our Long Island Nets. He's also a part of the LI Brew Crew, if that's a thing. Also is the head coach of our Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV team. But with no further introductions, we're still going to give it to him anyway. So, Anthony! Wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show, basketball legend from our SJLI Golden Eagles. His name is Gordon Shouler. Now, Gordon, I don't know quite if you can impersonate that one tonight, but I'm sure you'll have to try. But good to be with you once again, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'm excited to chop it back up with you guys again.
You know, I was motivated to give you this intro because before I got here, I was actually watching Creed 3, and they were doing the introductions of the fight. I don't want to spoil it, and I heard that intro. I'm like, man, I got to really try to top this guy, and I hope I did my best, but we'll talk about that later on. But I want to bring in the brute force Brad Weiss, because I always like to bring you in first, because obviously you were a peer of Gordon's. You didn't quite obviously cross paths with him, but you kind of know the kind of person and player he was. And for those that are listening and watching this on Sportswire Radio, especially for our Golden Eagle fans, set the tables for us and the kind of player and the kind of person that Gordon Shouler was and is.
Yeah, so hello everybody and welcome Gordon back to the show. I'm definitely excited to hear those impersonations because let's just start, before I even talk about him as a player, let's just start. He might be one of the best at impersonations that I've ever heard. So I definitely want to make sure that's said, number one. But to talk to him about how he is as a player and as a person, I've gotten to know Gordon, through obviously watching him play, obviously getting to know him from my teammates that I was with, who got to speak very highly of Gordon, his coaches who spoke very highly of him. So I know him. Plus, we have played each other in a men's league game, by the way, in the past.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that. Well, I guess I take that back.
So I will say we have crossed paths. But at St. Joe's, obviously, he did an amazing job. Matt Hurd meant it when he said it last week when he was here, that Gordon was one of those spark plugs to the program changing direction and truly becoming the program that it now is, which is a respectable program once again. He's a leader. You could clearly show that. You hear him talk, you could tell he's a leader. You hear more about his father later on the show, you'll know he's a leader. He definitely leads by example, but he also leads with his voice. And as Matt Hurd accurately said, right, he does it with his actions, right? He's great. He's hard on his teammates, but he's their best friend off the court. And you can just tell from his demeanor and how he works, that's the way he is. But I just want to say this as a player. There's always, especially as a big man, Tom Bryce, there's always an appreciation for a crafty point guard who can get downhill and make the right pass. And I love a guy like Gordon who just is crafty, right, is able to make shots but also get his teammates open looks. And that's one thing I really respected about his game when I was watching him at St. Joe's. He really made things happen for the Golden Eagles, not only on the offensive end, because I'm talking offense, but me personally, I love defense and guys who can get down in a stance and guard up, and he certainly did that as well. So all those great traits with the fact that he's just a great leader, great teammate, all his coaches and fellow teammates who I've gotten to speak to have spoke extremely highly of Gordon. And again, he's also a great impersonator and a great speaker here on the Sports Report.
Well,
So
that's why we have him on here. We know he's a great speaker. We know he's a great impersonator. I got all of that. But I mean, all the stuff you said is true because, Brad, we spoke. That's why Gordon was one of our favorites really during last year's team. I felt in a lot of ways he was the X factor because, Brad, and I'll let you jump back in here before I get to more comments. I really did feel like in a lot of ways, Gordon was way more valuable than his stats. Yes, he had some moments, no question. The scoring numbers did actually at times. He showed he could put the ball in the basket, and he made some plays there on the court. But Gordon, to me, was so much more valuable than his averages. I really felt that, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. And once again, coming from myself and the way that I coach and the way that I played, I can have a lot of appreciation for those guys. Like when you're watching a game, it's obvious to go for the guys that have the pretty stats or the great numbers, right? But then when you watch a game and you see who's really impacting the game, that's something that I always am looking at, right? It's not always about the guys who have all the stats. It was me as a player, I was the same way. Like you look at my stats, you probably think I wasn't that good.
You had some moments. No, I mean, you did have some moments.
But I will say, when you really think about it and you watch the impact of things that we do, right, you could see why we have such an impact and why Gordon's on the court for the amount of time that he is, which the team desperately needed. As Matt said, as Coach McSloy has said, multiple guys I've spoken to, he's just a spark plug and the guy who makes the engine run for those Golden Eagles, especially that season. And again, for somebody who wasn't the biggest stats.
And you froze there a bit there, Brad. You did freeze there a bit. But, I'll follow up on that before Brad comes back in. And I'm curious about this, Gordon. And there you are, Brad, obviously. You want to finish what you had to say, Brad, before I go back in to say something to Gordon? You want to finish what you had to say, Brad? Oh, I think we lost you then. All right, so you know what? We're going to let Brad figure out his technical difficulties there. You lost me. Brad, can we hear you now?
I think I'm here. All right? I've been really good with this. I think I jinxed it last week. But, listen, I was just finishing saying about how many people I've spoken to that really have spoken highly about Gordon, without the stats, like the things that don't show up in the scorebook. Those things, again, matter, especially as a coach now, Tom. I seem to really, again, as a player, I appreciated it, but I really appreciate it more as a coach and as a fan watching. And just watching the Golden Eagles, you can just tell, like I said, that Gordon was that motor that kind of kept the engine running because he did everything that the team needed, which, again, some of those things were not in the stat book, but they were important to why they won and why they were successful.
And I want to definitely talk about that in a second. I want to acknowledge a couple of people who are tuned in. First, Skulls the Soul Hunter here from California tuned in saying hello, boys. Anthony Finkel, who's in the state of Florida, closing in on his new house, says shout out to the Brad Weiss, the Golden Eagle himself. Definitely shout out to Anthony Finkel. But, Gordon, I was curious about this because I don't think I asked you this question because we spoke a lot about the Yeshiva game that our Golden Eagles were going to play in the playoffs earlier. But I was curious as the season went on. I know you guys had a special season, and what Brad said, everything Brad said is true, and certainly give Brad the check in the mail later on. But, I mean, when you guys were going on, as the season went on, you were winning game after game after game. Even after the Yeshiva win, you guys get to 15 wins, 12 wins in the conference. Did you guys know that you were having a season that was going to wind up being the best regular season in as many years as it was? And did guys kind of think about that, or maybe any pressure was on even veterans like yourself who were coming in here? I was just curious about that for those that might be boosters of the program.
No, I think honestly, like as we were going through it, we didn't really think about it in that way. I think we were just trying to, because obviously the beginning of the season, we started a little slow, right? We finished.
Yeah, under 500. Yep.
So I don't think we ever really thought about it. We were just trying to win like one game at a time. I think we definitely as we started to rack up some wins, then we get the win versus Yeshiva. I think we started to realize wow, like we're having, really like a special year for our program, but I don't think we ever thought about it. I think, the preseason polls picked us last. We never really thought about like pressure or anything like that. I think we were just living in the moment, just trying to take it one game, one possession at a time. So yeah, I don't think we ever looked at it in that way. I think we definitely realized it towards the end of the season. Looking back, I think we know what it meant to the program and everything. But no, I don't think we ever stressed over it too much or thought about it that way.
Let me ask you then a follow-up question. Is obviously what you said about the team being picked last. Obviously, that's a piggybacking off Brad. Unfortunately, in some of his teams, they're not winning as many games. But leave that shot aside. But do you think maybe it actually helped you guys, considering that you guys kind of went under the radar? Because sometimes you see this in sports where a team is kind of they don't really know anything about them. They haven't had much success recently, and maybe in a way that kind of lets you guys focus and kind of again go under the radar and do what you guys did, especially I want to say from about right around just before Christmas break on to where you guys got into the playoffs and won a lot of those games, especially late in the season.
For sure. Yeah, I think, for me, I've kind of always been a little bit of an underdog. So for me, like when we got picked last, I was like, this is beautiful. Like, this is right where this is where I live right here. But no, I think it does help. I think, obviously we got picked last because we had a bunch of freshmen. We were super young. Even our quote unquote veterans like myself, we weren't guys who had accumulated a ton of minutes prior.
Right.
So like we were a brand new team. So everyone's like, yeah, St. Joe's, Long Island, whatever. Screw them. They're going to finish in last. And I think we kind of embraced that. I think we just, we ran with it a little bit. And yeah, I think teams, first time we walked in the gym a couple of times, teams would kind of be like, St.
Who are these guys?
The schedule, like, yeah, we're going to get this one. Then all of a sudden, they're down 20 and they're going, whoa, what's going on? So yeah, I think it was definitely part of our identity last year was like, yeah, before the season, we had no business being here, but we're here to play, we're here to compete, we're here to contend. So yeah, I think it was definitely a chip on all of our shoulders for sure.
Absolutely, no question about that. And I also want to give a shout out to your former assistant coach, who's obviously doing a lot of things at Malloy. That is Jason Gordieso, who says G with exclamation points. Love the haircut, and certainly Coach is Coach at Disney right now, or am I seeing
he's always at some like tropical looking place. I feel like.
What was he, a financial planner or worked on Wall Street? Of course, he's always somewhere.
As far as I know, he worked for the mob or something. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to plead the fifth on that. I am going to plead the fifth on that. I am going to let you. Yes, all you. I'm going to let you. I'm going to move away from that.
All I'm saying is, he's explained it to me a couple times, but I never really get the full explanation. So makes me think there's something else going on there, but no.
All right, well,
no jokes aside, Coach.
I'm going to move all of us away from that comment because let's try to bring it back because the last thing we need is somebody out there, and I had a segment yesterday with an actual rabbit who was a killer rabbit, so we really don't want to go that far there. But I was curious. You said something good, and I'll bring Brad in a second because at Lebanon, you were there for 3 years, but you didn't play that much. I mean, you were there drips and drabs. You had some moments, but you were more of probably one of those guys that was more of an off-the-court person. Certainly you did have some experience. You were part of those teams, and they did have some moments, but do you think maybe you appreciated the journey that you had at St. Joe's where you're playing every game, you're getting big minutes, you're actually providing big points, you're doing things, you're a huge part of this young team, under the radar, wins 12 games in the Skyline Conference, yada, yada, yada. I mean, do you think actually in a way because of your journey to get to SJLI that actually you appreciated things far more than maybe anybody else on that team?
100%. Yeah, no, I think, I just look back, like, especially at LVC, and just my basketball career in general, like all the different things I had to overcome, all the different adversity that I had to kind of fight through. I think, my time at LVC from a basketball perspective was frustrating. I just never felt like I got, the right chance, never really got the fair shake on being able to provide. So I think for me, yeah, coming to St. Joe's, like it made me kind of enjoy every little bit of it, every little success we had, every win, every good practice, like every moment of it, I think I cherished probably more because, I had 3 years of trying to just get on the court and trying to like be a key contributor. And then I got to St. Joe's and the ball's in my hand. I'm starting.
You had the ball. I got to tell you, Gordon, when you had the ball more than Gordiello, I was very confident. I love Gordiello. Watching these games, I have to be honest. When you had the ball, I was very confident we were going to win.
As you should.
Well, I'm glad you felt the same way because I know Brad and I would speak sometimes and we'd say, Jake had a game. Jake had a moment. But when you had the ball, I knew we were winning.
For sure. Yeah, so I think I appreciated every little bit of it, and because it took so much to get there, right? And every single moment I think about like obviously being in that moment, but just everything it took to get to that point. So yeah, I definitely think, being a senior, a fifth year senior, and just with everything I had to kind of push through and battle through as a player, I think for me, I I tried to never take anything for granted that last year at St. Joe's, and I think that's part of what made it special.
Is it fair to say you had a chip on your shoulder?
100%. I mean, people who know me know I kind of have a chip on my shoulder in general. It's kind of just how I roll. But
that's why I like you. Sure. That's why I like you. There's something about you. You would fit in wrestling. You've got that wrestling attitude. I like you.
I've always had a little bit of that crazy psycho side on the court. I'm a nice guy off the court, but on the court I'm a little crazy.
Okay, all right.
For sure.
Nothing wrong with that. Listen, nothing at all wrong with that. I want to bring in Coach Gordieso because he laughed at kind of the answer on the mob stuff. And he also said, "Don't be fooled. You were 6 for 10 from the free throw line during."
I gotta address that. So
address that before I bring Brad.
So Coach G, man. So obviously, you many times over DM during the season would allude to the fact that I hit big free throws and
you were the guy. I would always say, "Gordon hit the line, we won."
Right. So then Coach G would then be like stalking me at practice, shooting free throws, and we would, So we would do this drill, right, in practice where we'd shoot 101. So if you miss the first one, it counted as 2 misses. But if you miss the second one, it counted as 1 miss. So you miss one, but it counts as 2 misses, which is, I'm like, well, what is this? So I'd go 7 for 10 or 6 for 10, and you had to make 8 for 10 or you ran. And Coach G would be like, oh, what is it? You're 6 for 10. I'm like, Coach, if I hit him when it matters, who cares? So Coach G always likes to bust my chops about that. So, it is what it is. But Coach G, man, stop hating. All right.
Well, you know what? I'm sure. Listen, we got to get Coach back on because Coach actually had to rain check on us, and maybe we'll have to check the schedules. I don't know. Maybe even this weekend if Coach has some availability, because I think we're trying to get different people on, and if Coach is available, maybe Saturday evening. That's the time to bring Coach on and let him respond. But Brad, I want to ask you a question in a different way because obviously your journey was different than Gordon's. You were certainly a player that had a lot of success in high school, even at times. I would have argued you were a guy that was a focal point of the offense and a focal point of somebody that played and had a lot of minutes. I mean, but hearing what Gordon had to say and how difficult is that journey for somebody like a Gordon to kind of battle at Lebanon, don't get a lot of minutes, but then come here in SJLI also on top of that deal with a worldwide pandemic and be able to be a really productive player. So kind of, Brad, talk about how difficult that journey that he went on.
Yeah, well, the pandemic part, unfortunately, I can't really say much. I mean, that was just, you have to be in it to have experienced that. We'll get Gordon's thoughts in a second. But listen, from the part of obviously going from Lebanon to St. Joe's, listen, I've had multiple teammates and multiple guys, especially out of Plainview, who have went away for college and have had different experiences where some of them have stayed and, had that experience of like Gordon, who maybe didn't get a lot of minutes. Some of them have given up, right, where they went there and then, haven't played and then gave up on their career. But, listen, from what I've heard, first of all, if you really love the game and you really love what you're doing, you'll continue to go into it. And I think that, speaking to a guy like Alan Duratovic, who we used to have we had on the show one time.
We had him on, a while back, sure.
He was at Oswego for 3 years and didn't get off the bench. But he loved the school. The school was very successful.
Obviously, he had some big moments, especially the last 10
or 12 and he waited it out and finally got his opportunity the last year. With Gordon, listen, he got his opportunity at St. Joe's and he found a place where, and again, everybody's different. Everybody has a different experience. Like my experience, there's not a lot of people who go to college Division III and just start right away. I mean, I had that experience as a freshman almost, and it was an experience that, not a lot of people have. But for some, especially, going from a program like Lebanon Valley, which is a great program, you go from that, to, St. Joe's. And listen, even though it's a different conference and a different look, it's still Division III basketball, and you still have to be acclimated with another team, another coach, a new system. But luckily for Gordon, he's from Long Island, and he knows Suffolk County, and he knows, what this area is about. And listen, St. Joe's, like, we said earlier, yeah, I can't deny it. We were really bad for a few years that I was there, and the integrity and the level of play at St. Joe's was low. And a guy like Gordon, like he just said, he has a chip on his shoulder. So what better guy at all times is to come in with a chip on his shoulder that I'm going to come here and I'm going to help this program turn itself around. And I think that's, again, a big thing that we talked about. But once again, everyone's story is different. But the fact that Gordon didn't give up and the fact that he kept going and then finally found his space at St. Joe's where he went and succeeded. That's something to be proud of, I think, for Gordon. I think that's something that, some other players wouldn't do. They would give up, or they would quit, or they would just, let me try something else. But he kept going with it. I think that's a big thing.
Absolutely, no question about that. And also, Coach Cordiaso wants to say all my love to my guy G, which we, of course, we 1,000% agree with that. But, I was curious because I actually do want to talk about Lebanon Valley in a second, because obviously that's a very fascinating story in itself, Gordon, which leads us here to getting to know you here for our Golden Eagles. But did guys on the team ask you about those experiences where you're there 3 years, you're in that program, you battled, and did you get asked a lot about, even if it's veteran guys on that team, whether it was Matt and Timmy Hurd or a Kevin O'Halloran, and even some of the younger players who were part of the team, like a Tabita or certainly Chris Connors and Spencer Malloy and anybody else, and that was the younger McNeely as well. Obviously, McNeely's name carries a lot of weight, but still might have questions. So did you get asked a lot by guys on the team about those experiences at Lebanon Valley?
For sure. Yeah, I think it was one of those things, like, guys knew that I had 3 years of experience under my belt at another school, separate from St. Joe's. My freshman year, like, we went to the NCAA tournament, which obviously, the goal, I think, of anybody is to win their conference and go to the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, I got asked a lot of questions, and I think those experiences really helped me relate to those guys and helped me kind of relate to some of the things that they dealt with throughout the season and some of their problems and things that kind of come up throughout a really long college basketball season. So, yeah, a lot of questions. Again, we were super young. I was 22, and we had a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds running around.
If you took O'Halloran away, the average age of the team would have been like, what, 17 and a half?
Yeah, like literally. No, yeah, Grandpa Kev. But so, yeah, definitely all the time. I think they leaned on that a little bit, and I was more than happy to, I kind of made it part of my identity. Like, yeah, I've been through this, and I'm here to share what I've been through to try to help you guys get better and help you guys grow as players.
Brad, I want to bring you in a different take, because I never really asked you this question. Obviously, you've been with us for 3 years. We've done countless of these spots, but I was wondering, maybe for your own career at St. Joe's, especially those last couple of years where you didn't win as many games. First year you do get into the playoffs, but the last couple of years the team struggles. How helpful do you think a guy like Gordon would have been to those teams that you would have been on, maybe in the leadership and those intangibles, the basketball IQ we spoke about last time, but even what he brought in, that chip on his shoulder? Because I do think in a lot of ways, the last 2 teams you played on, you were missing that leadership. You were missing a Gordon Shouler. So talk about maybe that, how helpful he could have been maybe to those teams that you were on.
Oh, very helpful. Very helpful to that. And listen, I played with a lot of different teammates. And,
I know you did. I need a scorecard to count.
I probably would need a book to write as many as I had at St. Joe's. But listen, it would have been a very stable, and listen, we call myself the brute force, but I would say that Gordon would have been a very stable force for our team.
That's a good one.
Because he's, again, you talk about leaderships, the experience that he had. The one thing, and what's interesting about the journey that we had was that, we obviously had some difficult seasons, but we also had a season where we brought in 3 players from the Skyline Championship Farmingdale State Rams who came to St. Joe's the next year. And, we thought, okay, well, maybe this would help us with our experience. Maybe this would help us with learning how to win, right? And ultimately, those players weren't really guys who came to St. Joe's. They came because they had issues at Farmingdale. So, it's a little different with Gordon, because maybe necessarily he's coming in as someone who's been in a championship, somebody who's motivated and pumped up to come and win, by himself with the team that he could play for, right? Those guys had already, done it. They were kind of like, we don't like this, we don't like that. So let's just go in. Obviously, we didn't know that. We were hoping that it would be different. But just knowing Gordon and what we've heard from him, it's obvious that he would have had a big impact. He would have been a great force. He would have been a great mentor for a guy like a Doug Niblock, some of our other guards, even Matt Hurd, who he ended up being a mentor for, but, a few years later. So ultimately, I would have loved, again, I spoke about what type of player Gordon was and how much we would appreciate that when we had guys like Frank Basile who could score the ball, Mike Harris, right? Doug Niblock, myself, Jonah Caldwell, right? One thing that we kind of were missing at times was a floor general, a leader, a guy, who kind of had a good voice in the locker room. We were missing that. We had, some, but We didn't have that guy. And I think Gordon would have been that great guy because he had the experience of winning and had a chip on his shoulder that was different than the Farmingdale guys who kind of came in a different kind of mindset and attitude.
I equate it almost in a way, and going back, it's almost like a team that they're really young. You don't know what they are. And then all of a sudden, they kind of bring in that veteran person in a way, almost to kind of equate it for baseball fans out there. The Mets acquire Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez is this guy's got a lot of experience. He wins a World Series, and he goes into molds this Met team, and they win a World Series. And in a lot of ways, Gordon, I think, is kind of that player that he helped a lot of these guys learn how to win. Look at the last 2 years, right? 22 wins in the Skyline Conference and how hard that is for this program. We have not done those things in just about 10 years. That's why, to me, Gordon is so valuable, more so than the stats. And he did have his moments. There's no question that the statistics certainly speak for themselves. But, one other reason why that I also think that Gordon was important, Brad. And yes, you talked about the fact that he wanted to be here. Yes, he was excited, but also off the court, he was an honor roll student. So you're bringing in somebody that wasn't just here to play and kind of rack up stats and, maybe they want to try and go the long route and maybe play professionally, semi-pro. And I mean, Gordon, talk about what you did off the court, because you were a Skyline Conference honor roll. You were MAC honor roll. I mean, you came here in addition to being a player on the books in the classroom. You were great, and that might have helped a lot of these guys also saying, you know what, Gordon, not only does he give it 110% on the court in the classroom, he does just it, if not more. Talk about what that meant to you, being an honor roll member in two different schools, and maybe how that helped the team.
For sure, yeah, I think I always took a lot of pride in just making sure I was taking care of business on and off the court. I'm a big believer in like the student athlete term, and I know like that kind of gets lost in today's day and age. We're paying college athletes and all that now, but for someone like me, I've always been big, and my parents stressed it from when I was little. Listen, you're probably not going to go play for the Lakers, so you better study and you better hit the books hard. So it was something I always took a lot of pride in, making sure that I was doing the right things on and off the court. And I think any good program has a team full of guys who are doing both. Even if you're not necessarily the best student, even if you're not like the smartest person in the room, if you're at least carrying yourself the right way and doing the right things. So I think, those different, achievements, those different awards, they kind of reflect just my approach in general to it. And yeah, I think, to the credit of McSloy and all the guys we had on that team at St. Joe's, we had a lot of really smart, like high achieving guys in the classroom. So I really didn't need to like set much of an example in that regard. I mean, honestly, when I got to St. Joe's, I was in grad school by that point, and by that point I was so sick of school. I really don't like school. I mean, I did well in school, but I don't like school at all. And I was super sick of school by that point. So, I was, grad school, you're taking a couple classes here and there, but these guys, they were doing a great job on their own. So I really didn't need to do much in that regard. But yeah, I think, having a bunch of people like that is certainly helpful for any program, for any team.
Well, if it makes you feel better, both these, that's why they didn't recruit me at SJLI, because my grades were the equivalent of clown college. So that's kind of why I'm on the mic and certainly wasn't on the court, but we are with the legendary Gordon Shore. And I want everybody to follow Gordon and all the great things that he does on Instagram at Gordon_Shoyer05. You can also follow him at G_Shoyer05 on Twitter. And please follow our SJLI Golden Eagles men's basketball team at SJLI_MB Ball on Instagram and Twitter. And the brute force Brad Weiss, please follow him on Twitter at BradWeiss20. Bradley Weiss on Facebook, also BWeiss20 on Instagram, and Coach Brad Weiss on Instagram as well. And Anthony Finkel gives us the Golden Eagle emoji. I appreciate the emoji there. So all good stuff there with that. And we'll come back to more plugs and in a second there. Gordon, I just want to talk about your family, because obviously your father is well known in the game of basketball on Long Island, obviously coaching. Your family were all athletes, and I was curious on what that experience was like in terms of, you touched upon it very briefly, but for those that are listening and watching on Sportzwire Radio, just kind of how that molded you into what you have become and what you're going to do in the future.
Yeah, so I mean, my dad, so I started playing basketball when I was 7 years old, right? And my dad had just gotten the head coaching job at Kings Park. So I mean, I went to every single practice, game, event. My dad being a coach, he took me everywhere. So from a very young age, like I was a part of so much basketball. I was in the gym, I was on the side, getting shots up, dribbling around, doing whatever. Like I was always there. I was like always at his hip. I sat on his bench during games, so like it's really kind of interesting because I think a big part of like where my love of the game comes from was built through like all those years of watching his teams play and all the guys who played for him. The way they approached it and the way they took it seriously. I think it kind of helped create this like huge love for the game of basketball that I have now as an adult. So yeah, I think it just created this obsession with the game of basketball for me. And I think being a coach's son, right? Like for me, my approach, because I've been involved with it since such a young age, has always been very like business focused, like locked in, serious. As opposed to like a lot of younger kids, right? When they first start playing basketball, they're just they're running around out there, having fun, right? Which is fine. But I think for me, like ever since like the beginning of me first playing basketball, I've always had a very like business mindset with it, always very focused, like driven, working hard at it. It's an approach that I've kind of kept all through middle school, high school, college. I've always been someone who kind of does it by the book, does the right things, and just, it's all business with me. I want to have fun and I'm a fun guy, but I keep it very serious on the court. I took it like a job in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think it had a huge impact on me. It's a big part of my identity. I think, I dealt with a lot of like, definitely got a lot going, growing up with the whole, oh, you're the coach's son, so you get this or that. And yeah, I think a lot of coaches' sons can relate to that. They get the, oh, you got a favorite or something. And it's like, man, you got no idea what you're talking about. My dad's 10 times tougher on me than he is anybody else he's ever coached. So, but yeah, it's a huge part, obviously, of my upbringing and my ultimate story in the game of basketball.
I'm going to bring Brad in a second. I have a couple of comments, but you said something interesting, which we really haven't explored recently on Sportswire, and you talk about that pressure. And I mean, was there pressure on you because you were the coach's son, and in a lot of ways a father that was so well known and so heavily involved in the game of basketball? Did it actually put a lot of pressure on you?
It wasn't pressure from him. My dad never forced me to play basketball. My love for the game of basketball was strictly mine, and I give my dad a lot of credit for that. He never forced me to do that. And I would say for any like father out there thinking about coaching their son or daughter, like I would say you can't force them to love the game. So I never got pressure from him. It was always like my love for the game. I think the challenge of being a coach's son is, when your dad's coaching you, right, you have to, if you're the worst player in the team, right, like everyone's like, oh, well, you stink, like you're not going to play anyways. So, the parents and all the other people involved with the team, they don't worry. If you're the best player, right, they're like, all right, well, this guy's like so much better than everybody else, like he has to play. If you're like a middle guy, though, then it gets dicey because then people are like, oh, well, he's playing more than so-and-so, or like this guy over here, my son. So I think it can be tough. Like you either got to be the worst guy, which obviously you don't strive to be, or you got to be like the best or one of the best guys. So I think it's maybe like internal pressure just, from yourself because, parents, especially these days, are brutal and, they never seem to see it from an unbiased point of view, right? They always think their kid should be playing more than you. And the easy excuse is always, well, he's playing because, he's the coach's son. It's like, no, if you really look at the tape here, we can we can see that he belongs in the court.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I mean, an objective eye is going to say whether the child or the teenager, adolescent is a player or not a player, and I'm going to bring you Brad in a second. But Anthony Finkel says throw them Eagles up, and he also does the number one, which I'm sure we're going to get to in an impersonation in a second because I'm going to go into my grave with people trying to impersonate that introduction. And Anthony Finkel is one of those people, but that's okay. We listen. That's always a good thing when somebody's trying to impersonate you. I always say that is a very, very good thing. Eagles fly high, absolutely no question about that. But Brad, all fun and kidding aside here, I mean, your father didn't coach you, but your father was a professional athlete. I mean, your father was a very, very decorated, college baseball player. I mean, the man played professionally for a period, and I'm sure we've spoke about that millions of times. But I mean, maybe talk about your story versus Gordon's, or whether it's similar. Can you relate? Is it different? Because hearing Gordon's story for the first time, we haven't had somebody on who's got that kind of story where, his father played, his brothers were athletes, and he himself did other things. But I mean, how was that like in terms of your journey and maybe some of the things you might find similar? Because again, your father obviously, speaks for himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting how much Gordon was preaching the gospel a second ago when it comes to first of all when it came to parents and coaching. Trust me, I know as a coach, but but about the story too because mine very much aligns with Gordon's. Yeah, I mean, my dad never pushed me right to love the game of basketball, go crazy for it. Obviously, he was a baseball guy, so if anything, he was more for baseball, but everybody knew, and this is where me and Gordon don't relate, is that I was always one of the tallest in my school. So it was pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious that I had to play basketball. And that was kind of the pressure on me to be good because I was the tall guy and I had to, work on my game. But the best part that Gordon said about his father is that, he was 10 times harder on him than anybody else. Well, my dad, I could relate 100% to that one because even when he was coaching me in baseball, I mean, people, questioned about why I was batting this, why I was batting that. But listen, my dad was so hard on me and was the guy that would drop me in the lineup when I was striking out 3 times in a game. He was harder than me.
He should have dropped you in the brew crew. Remember when you were struggling on the softball field a couple of years ago?
Why do you got to remind me of my struggles? Why can't we talk about the home runs? But anyway. Listen, he was so hard on me. He made it. Listen, some of those days, and obviously I know Gordon knows him, but, I used to train with Jerry Powell when I was in high school, middle school. And some of those days, we always think about Jerry being the guy that would make you, upset because he was loud. He was in your face. He cursed at you. But it was actually my father who was worse. On the car ride home because he would let me have it about every little mistake, even the one a little thing that I did wrong. Even when I played amazing, there would be something that I did wrong and I had to hear about it. So it was never perfect, but ultimately it did shape me into who I am because, listen, I had to take the heat, but the heat came with some success and you got to understand the heat comes from how much he cares about how well you're going to do. And the thing that I loved about my father the most is that especially now as a coach too, he cares about me obviously as his son, but he really cares about all those that I play with and who are around me. And that's why I had a lot of appreciation for him. But there is no person that he was harder on than me. He gave me a hard time. But ultimately, the journey's kind of the same, with, my dad, coaching. Well, when it came to basketball, he kind of laid off. But at the same time, he was my hardest critic. He was the guy who was always in my ear about everything. So, yeah, me and Gordon's, kind of aligned a little bit, just in a different sport because of my dad being baseball. And also, Gordon, I can't deny it that I was the tallest. And I know Gordon wasn't the tallest, but I definitely had that. So that was something that I had a little bit of pressure there just because I was the tallest and I had to be good.
One thing to add real quick there. I got one thing to add. I don't know if it's the same for you, Brad, but as tough as my dad was on me, in the car ride home, my mom was way worse than my dad on the car ride home. My mom a couple times absolutely ripped into me. My mom's not a basketball player. She didn't know anything about basketball before she met my dad. My mom was way worse than my dad on some of the car rides home growing up. So as bad as my dad was on the court and during the practice and during the games, we get in the car and my dad would go silent and my mom would start talking. And it was you wouldn't guess it, but so just funny side note there. My mom was just as bad.
Man, wow, that's as we would call it in basketball, it's like a double team. I mean,
Wow.
that's a trap. Damn. I mean, that's tough. I mean, I thought it was bad for me when I was, sitting in the front seat next to my dad driving the car. But now you have the driver and the mother,
I was in the back and I had the 1-2 in front. So one looks at me from here and one looks at me from here. And I'm like,
oh, that's brutal.
Well, if it makes you guys feel any better, before I get to a comment, I would get double teamed by my parents, not because I played sports, because usually I was in trouble in the streets in Brooklyn. Usually I was getting the beatings because I deserved them probably most of the time, I'm sure. But if it makes you guys feel any better, I was getting a different double team, not because I did something on or off the court. But
I will say this quickly, Tom, before you go to the comments. It's actually funny now that things have changed. With my coaching, now that I coach at high school and I coach level up, I actually now have a double team, when it comes to critics, and I have a post-game conference from my father about every mistake I made. But it's not only my father, but all of a sudden now it's my sister who's also on the double team. So it's my dad and my sister who have all of a sudden gotten at me about every coaching move I make. So I guess I have the double team now, but as a kid, no, it was only him. So I didn't have it as bad as Gordon.
All right. Well, all right, fair enough. I do have a couple of comments here from a coach, certainly a different coach, but a coach that probably some people know here. His name is Jason Facina. Jason Facina is the head coach of our Five Town Sound men's soccer team. He is also the assistant athletic director. He says we want Jason Gordieso back on the show. Well, Jason Gordieso rain checked on us a couple of weeks ago, but we will certainly be getting him back. But he has an interesting one that I think that I'm going to let Brad kind of enlighten us on, because apparently what's going on here Sunday? I heard you and Gordieso, are you guys
Actually,
enlighten
you
us on
just
this?
reminded me. Yeah. So listen, that's great, by the way, Facino, you brought that up. So yes, me and Gordieso are actually playing against each other. Third grade teams going at it on Sunday. The first game of the Island Garden Spring League season is me against Gordieso's team in third grade. So I will say this, though. Jason has definitely given me a beat down in the past with the 8th grade team I used to coach. But this time I have a really good third grade team. So I think I have to return, as much as I like Coach G, I love Coach G. I think I got to return the favor, but he's always a pleasure to coach against. But yes, that is going down on Sunday in third grade, me against Gordieso.
Now, Gordon, I'm not going to ask you who do you think is favored there in that matchup. I'll certainly let maybe Mr. Facina, if he has any inside information that he wants to pass around, and certainly Mr. Facina. I know, by the way, also the Brute Force, and Gordon, I'll let you slide on this one. I know certainly Mr. Facina, though, a little bit more of an accomplished softball player over you, Brad, apparently, because Mr. Facina, we understand, has gone out to places like Maryland to hone his skills. Certainly, while he was a very good soccer player and an even better soccer coach, apparently we hear he's legendary on the softball field, a little bit more legendary than you are on the softball field, Brad.
The only thing I'll say, and this is not being disrespectful in any way, is that I think Facina's got a longer career than me. But with that, I will say my softball career has been nothing. I mean, I haven't played that much, and I haven't done.
Do you want to announce your retirement? Do you want to?
I'm not retiring. I'm not retiring. Listen,
you're not pulling a Tom Brady here on us. You're not going to announce your retirement.
No. Listen, I got more home runs to hit. I mean.
So maybe you'll pull a Udonis Haslin on us and maybe announce your retirement, play one more game, and have the game of your life. All right. Well, Brad, there we go. We lost you again, Brad. Brad, are you having Wi-Fi connections or wiretap connections?
I don't know what's going on, Tom. I mean, I was just talking about myself nicely for a second, then it just goes off. You know, it's just the way it goes. But what I was saying is that, you know, Jason is probably the singles and doubles guy who's just hitting and getting on base, and me, I'm kind of all or nothing. I'm either hitting a home run or I'm probably grounding out to the pitcher. Who
all right, well, you know what? I'm not going to ask softball skills because I got Gordon Shouler here, and I wanted to ask Gordon about Smithtown West High School because I think that's an interesting run there. You obviously had some moments there, and I wanted to speak about that because obviously we actually have a mutual connection there, which we'll get to in a second. But somebody Brad played against and I covered and watched a lot of his games live, certainly his last year there playing. But Gordon, I mean, talk about what did you learn playing at Smithtown West High School where you had a lot of success, and tell us anything you like.
Yeah, Smithtown West was a crazy experience. You know, it was really fun for me because, you know, at Smithtown West, I played with all the guys basically who I grew up playing with since I was like in second and third grade. You know, it was really cool. My senior year was me and I think, you know, 8 or 9 other seniors on the team. You know, guys, we've been playing together since the beginning, since you can first start playing basketball. So it was really fun and we had a ton of success. You know, we won back-to-back league championships, first league title I think the school had since like the 60s. My senior year we finished like 21-2, you know, undefeated in the league one of the years, so had a lot of success there, and it was just a lot of fun playing with, you know, childhood friends, and, you know, not only playing with them but winning games with them was a lot of fun, and you know, got to play a lot and be a part of some history over there. So yeah, Smithtown West is a great part of my career for sure.
Can I tell you this, Tom, real quick? Jump in. This because as a person who's obviously in the high school basketball field as a coach, I mean, especially as a player too, I mean, Smithtown West is one of those programs that I feel like is kind of underappreciated because they're always under the radar so good. They always have great players, a lot of guys that go play college basketball. I mean, Tom's going to refer to one in Doug Levy. You know, I played with one.
I got two.
Yeah, we got. I'll save that one as the secret, but I'm going to bring up, you know, another guy who I played with, Nick Paquette, who was a great player over at New Paltz.
Yep.
Yeah, Nick's my guy. I love Nick. So they've had so many great players and so many great teams And again, this year too, they had a fantastic team. Unfortunately, they had an injury that kind of led to their not winning the counties. But they always are just a fantastic, well-coached program that I really have come to appreciate over the years because it seems like it just keeps coming. Like they just keep coming with more great players, more solid Division III, Division II players, and just really respectable teams. So I just wanted to say that because from afar, I've really gone to respect a program like Smithtown West.
Absolutely, and we will get to a couple of those players in a second, and excellent points there, Brad. That's very fair. But, I was curious on the fact that, Gordon, you said you played with about, I would say, 2/3 of your teammates from the second grade on, and, you don't get that too often. It reminds me of when I was growing up in Brooklyn, and I went to school, I guess it was my third grade class to my high school class. We were all pretty much the same thing, but not to the degree of playing on the basketball court. But I mean, talk about that experience of playing with guys you grew up with. I mean, very unique experience to play with 9 guys over a 10-year period, and what did that bond be like with all those players?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I think so. Some of them I've really played with since like first grade, but I think the bulk of the team kind of formed in fourth grade.
Okay.
I think it just, we had a lot of success together growing up. We won championships in CYO and middle school, high school. So we had a lot of success going up, and I think it created a trust. It created a certain chemistry. And again, I think it was a lot of fun. Like we all got along. We enjoyed playing with each other. We knew where each other were going to be. Guys knew that if they kicked it out to me in the corner, I was going to drill a three, and guys knew that if Kyle LaGuardia was driving the rim, like he was going to finish, or like we had a feel for the game. We had an understanding, and we had been through a lot of trials and tribulations playing tough games, growing up, where once we got to high school, like I don't want to say it came easy, but we would we played AAU together, and we'd go into these tournaments in the Bronx and Jersey, and we sometimes we get dunked on when we're in like 8th grade. Then all of a sudden, you go from that to playing, a regular high school team, and you're like, man, this is nothing compared to what we're used to. I think it only helped us, and yeah, it's definitely rare nowadays. But when you do have those types of teams, I mean, those are the teams that typically have a lot of success. Is when you have those senior heavy teams that have been together since the beginning, and that was definitely us.
Absolutely, no question about that. Now, speaking of a team that you have played with some players on that had some success, I think about the team that I had covered, the 2019-2020 John Jay College men's Bloodhounds basketball team, and Brad kind of partially stole my thunder, which kind of Brad actually owes me for that because I think last week I stole your notes, I think, on one of our shows. So that kind of you evened out on that. So I'll give you that much, Brad. Touche. But there was 2 players in particular that obviously you played with. And the first one, which I'm going to let Brad maybe talk about in a second, a guy that he matched up with, which was a guy, Doug Levy. And Doug Levy, I mean, really one of the more interesting stories of anybody I've covered in my career. I'm doing this 4.5 years, and here's a guy that basically nobody knew what to expect from. Goes to John Jay, basically is a walk-on player, goes on there and becomes arguably maybe the greatest player in the school's history. Goes out there and scores 1,200 plus points, 1,000 plus rebounds, up there in all the school's categories. Even plays a little bit professionally, which from CUNY to play pro is just very rare. Although his teammate Jason Brower is still actually playing in Puerto Rico, but that's a very, very unique story because his father played. His father was a legendary player, and he was actually a walk-on, had a cup of coffee at LaSalle. So that's kind of an asterisk. But Doug Levy, who is now also at Northwestern, he's the operations director there, if I'm not mistaken, and just a very, very unique story. So, I mean, Gordon, I'll let Brad chime in a second. I mean, talk to me about Doug Levy. And, I mean, did you see this one coming? Because, I've gotten to know him. I watched him play. I don't know if anybody saw a situation like this, but you knew him out in Smithtown West, so you saw something that Ryan Highland probably saw. A lot of other people did. So, talk about what that experience was like in playing with the Doug Levy.
Yeah, the answer is no, not really. And that's not a knock on Doug.
He was like, what do you average, 9 points a game for you guys? I'm serious.
So
I don't even think he scored 10 points a game in high school. I was a way better player in high school. I'm being serious.
So I always joke with Doug when I see him because me and Doug, we started playing together in middle school. Doug was in 8th grade. I was in 7th. And in 7th grade, you have to imagine I was like under 5 foot, probably not even 100 pounds. And Doug was, not obviously not nearly as big as he is now, but was bigger than most kids at that age. And the joke is that I averaged more rebounds a game than Doug did in middle school, and I was,
No, it's a fair
I
point.
was not even half his size. So then going from that to then, being on the high school team together, he was on the team his junior and senior year. I was on the team sophomore, junior, and senior year. So we had 2 years there together. His junior year didn't really play a lot, and then senior year he ends up starting for us the whole year. Gave us big minutes, had a very good year, and then he starts getting recruited by John Jay. And I'm figuring, Doug's gonna have a nice solid career. Maybe he can work his way into the rotation and have a little bit of success and maybe earn some PT. And the next thing you know, Doug's killing it. He's dominating everyone in the CUNY. He's the player of the year. And I'm just looking at, I'm like, I'm still baffled by it, but it's a testament to how hard he worked. And, I got to give him a lot of credit. Like you said, it's a very unique story because, he was, I might say he was bad, but he wasn't like CUNY player.
No, I interviewed him. I had him on 3 times, and it was like, this was a guy that in high school, Brad was well known in high school. You obviously were known, for different reasons, but this, Doug, no disrespect to Doug, but nobody saw this story where he goes on to be CUNYAC Player of the Year and he gets national votes and he goes on to be this guy that, people start paying attention to, where he even gets to play in Israel and he's now in Northwestern. Who would have saw this coming?
No, I don't think any of us really did. But again, it's a testament to him. But yeah, it's wild to me. Like even his jump from junior to senior year of high school, I thought was huge. And then like his jump from senior year of high school and then freshman year of college and sophomore year of college was insane. And following it from afar, I was stunned. But again, huge credit to him for all the work he put in over the years. But yeah, Doug Levy is he's one of the really good stories of like just basketball, of like more of the, obviously you have the great stories, the Division I level, the blue chip prospects, but like those are the real stories, the realistic stories for people around here, like that they should look at. Like Doug Levy, I think he got cut from his JV team like both years and CUNY Player of the Year.
I think a story
awesome
like
stuff.
Doug that's one of those stories. To have played professionally and where he is, and Brad, we used to joke a lot about you and Doug, and obviously Doug has gone to the big league, so Doug has certainly gone out there, and he's way bigger than all of us put together. But anything you want to share about those experiences with Doug for Gordon? Because obviously you matched up with him a little bit there when John Jay and St. Joe's would have that one game a year, and just hearing some of those things, and we haven't spoke about Doug in a long time, but to hear that, from somebody like Gordon, I think it kind of strengthens maybe the kind of work that actually Doug had put in, and maybe for any basketball player out there, maybe should, kind of take note.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crazy part is obviously for me personally, I never saw that Doug Levy. I only saw the one that had all the success.
You saw the rah-rah, everybody, the glitz and the glory.
Because listen, when we first played each other, and he was a good player, and you could see him getting better and kind of adding more to his game. But you never really thought of what Gordon just described him as in high school, as a guy that really just wasn't. You could never even see it. Like when I was playing, you could see that he was a good player. And again, just the ascension that he made over the years. He added a great perimeter jump shot. He was a great
jump shooter. He was a great jump shooter.
He added a nice, spin move and a nice, footwork around the rim. He was a tough guy to guard. It was tough to, play inside out with him. It was tough, even when you thought you had him, he would make a nice move to his other hand and shoot over you. Like he really made it tough. And defensively also, you saw kind of early on, maybe not the most fleet of foot, maybe they're not the most, athletic defender you'll see out there. And then over the years, I thought he really improved defensively, moving his feet, guarding pick and rolls, doing things like that. And like we said, resulted in Player of the Year, many different accomplishments. But again, I had a lot to say on Doug when we spoke about him in the past, about how much I really respected his game and how much he really improved and showed over the years. Because if there was that most improved player too, I would have given it to him as well, because he was a guy that just really improved drastically every year and just made it more and more difficult, right, to guard him and go against him. And I consider him one of the best big men I played in Division III, even with the Skyline. We played some tall, athletic big men, but they weren't as skilled as Doug Levy, who really showed a lot of the skills. So it was just awesome. And to hear that he went overseas from CUNY, like you said, Tom, was a big accomplishment for not only him, but obviously that CUNYAC conference that really doesn't get that.
They desperately need that. I mean, him and Jason Brower,
props to him, and also props to the coaching staff at John Jay that does a great job. Obviously led by Ryan Hyland, who we know from the show. Yes. And he's one of the best out there as well. So shout out to John Jay. But again, all the credit in the world goes to Doug. He did a terrific job. He put the work in, and not only on the court, but with his body in the weight room. And he became a fantastic player and is now going to be a fantastic coach as well.
Yeah, and before I bring Gordon in, that reminds me of when I remember speaking with Doug, I think the first time he came on, this is even well before you came on the radio, Brad, and he talked about the transformation he made from his body that freshman year at John Jay to where that last year where you saw this guy and you kind of saw the body he made himself into, and then what he was able to do inside and outside, and really made himself a special kind of player again, really rarefied air in the modern history of CUNY. I think about obviously some of the guys that are playing at Lehman right now, and certainly York. We have a player coming on next week, Divine Chills, both of you guys I know played against. But, very few players I could think of have done what Doug did. Doug also was a part of the NCAA All-Star team during junior year. It's senior year that played overseas. So that's certainly great accomplishments there. Congratulations for Doug. But we're the small people on a pod there with that. But, another player, Gordon, that I thought was so fascinating that you played with, and a guy that was an interesting player to watch, an interesting player to cover. And he could do so many different things with the ball. And he was kind of referred to as almost the Giannis of that John Jay 1920 team. That was Kyle LaGuardia. And that guy, Kyle LaGuardia was a fun player to watch. And I just always say, Gordon, I just was so disappointed I didn't get a chance to watch him for one more year. And I know Ryan Hyland probably feels more so than I do, because he probably thinks he would have had a chance to win that CUNY championship, which has eluded him in his career. Undoubtedly. But Kyle LaGuardia was a guy you saw up close, a guy you played with. And talk to me in the kind of player that he became and that led to having a lot of success also in John Jay.
Yeah, so Kyle LaGuardia, we go way back. Kyle LaGuardia is on the very first basketball team period I've ever been on. Again, first grade, in-house, rec league basketball. Kyle LaGuardia was on the team. And we played every year we played on the team together every year from first grade to senior year of high school. So, yeah, I got a very up-close view of Kyle LaGuardia. And that description of him is pretty accurate. Athletically, he's like the Giannis of D3. Obviously, very poor man's Giannis, but athletically, the things he does, it's very similar. Kyle is like a freak of nature. And my dad used to always call him Spider-Man because, Kyle was, so on our CYO and AAU teams, Kyle, believe it or not, wasn't even a starter, which says a lot about that team, right? Okay. But Kyle would come in the game, and he wasn't necessarily the most skilled guy at the time, but he would come in and he would just make one or two plays where you'd be like, how did he do that? And he's just he has this weird ability to just make all these bizarre plays that no one else is just physically able to make. He's just one of those really gifted, freaky, talented guys. And to watch Kyle, especially go from just this raw athletic kid from 1st to 10th grade to then becoming a great Division III college basketball player. And I think he won first team all conferences last year there. Probably would have won player of the year if he had the extra year.
Yeah, he would have been player of the year. There was no question.
100%. So yeah, watching Kyle's ascension, he went through the roof. His game just took off between his sophomore and junior year of high school. And I remember, he was good, but he wasn't that. And then all of a sudden, we were in practices and games, and Kyle was just killing everybody in every practice, every game. He's blocking every shot. He's going by people, hitting threes.
Yeah, he could jump, man. His dunks. I still remember him dunking the ball at John. I still actually have those memories. He actually was a better leaper than Levy. I just want to put it out there because he could go above the rim.
100%. Yeah. So Kyle's a stud. I teased him when he was thinking about whether he was going to come back or he was going to enter into the workforce. I teased him man, you should come to St. Joe's. Let's reunite or whatever.
Well, you know what? What happened there? Now that would have been, we would have won the championship. I think we would have won the whole thing.
We would have had a damn good chance. I'll tell you that. Obviously I knew he was going to say no to me, but I was like, listen, man, if if you want to run it back, raise some more banners. You won a bunch of championships together in the past, listen.
And he couldn't win one at John Jay. And you better believe if we would have had Kyle on that team, forget about it. Forget about it.
Would have been a fun time. But, Kyle's the man. He's also just a great dude, too. I mean,
he was, what I remember most about Kyle is that he was very mild-mannered. Kyle, I spoke with Kyle a couple of times. Parents were at all the games. They were so super. His girlfriend, who was also a soccer player, was also, I think she was a soccer player and cheerleader, if I recall correctly. And they were just so supportive, just so nice people, down to earth.
He has the greatest family. His parents are awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Doug, you could tell had a little bit of flavor to him. He had a little bit of character. Kyle was more like he spoke on the court. He wasn't a guy off the court so much, but he was very much an on the court kind of guy. And in a lot of ways, I think he kind of fitted perfectly those John Jay teams that Highland kind of assembled because they were very Yankees-like. They were very professional. They were very kind of, workman's-like, blue collar, as they say. So all reasons why that we certainly like those teams, but we like even more having Gordon Scheuer, the legendary Gordon Scheuer, of course, from Smithtown High School, Lebanon Valley College, and for our SJLI Golden Eagles, where he's doing a lot of great things now currently for Stony Brook University. And alongside me is to talk with Gordon is the brute force Brad Weiss, who still reminds us he's got a poster at the Dandy Center. He is 27th all-time in school history in rebounds, although he dropped 2 notches this season. He's also the head coach for our Plainview boys JV basketball team. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, continue to give us a like and follow on Facebook and also on YouTube at Sportswire. We have a lot of new subscribers, new followers. I really appreciate that. And also 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/play. And I'll be back Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. with New York Harlem Underdogs coverage. I'll have on Kavan Baker, 2-time Admirals 3-point guard, also Kyle Chaplin, also Ozzie Trail, Jordan Rodriguez, and then Charles Dose, who is also playing for the Admirals. So a lot of coverage for our Underdogs and our Admirals. So that'll be 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Kavan Baker, Kyle Chaplin, Ozzie Trail, Jordan Rodriguez, and Charles Dose. You can follow the Underdogs at Underdogs ABA. You can also follow the Admirals as well and Coach D. Coach D is always supporting us. Tri-State Admirals. You can follow their pages. The guys are getting ready for the season. Coach D has always been one of our big supporters. Also, Thursday night, another Long Island legend will be with us. It'll be 8:30 with Mr. Jesse Winter, the former all-time leading scorer for our Cortland Red Dragons men's basketball team. Also himself played professionally in Israel, and he is the Brute Force's boss technically at the Level Up basketball organization. So I'm looking forward to speaking with Jesse for the first time and all great things ahead. But we are with the legendary Gordon Scheuer. Now, Gordon, we spoke a lot and a lot of serious stuff right now, but I think it is an excellent time. We've got about half hour or so with you, maybe to come back into the Brute Force's favorite topic. I know he is dying to hear more of these impersonations and everything else. And, have to get the insides on how did you become this guy that is some people are great drawers, some people are great sketchers, but yet you're a great impersonator. So tell us, how did this all happen and just anything else you might want to share?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those weird talents that I've just kind of always had. And for whatever reason, I'm just able, I hear someone's voice a bunch of times. I'm just kind of able to replicate it in my own way. I don't really know where it comes from or what it is. It's just something I've always had. So, I kind of started doing it. I would just do it, randomly. I'm just kind of goofy. I'll just voice in front of all the guys. And the guys are like, man, that's actually pretty good. You should. So it just kind of, it started small and became this huge thing by the end of the year. I just, and it just became something we were all doing as a team, right? We would just impersonate everybody. It was really funny. It was a good time. But yeah, it's just my thing, I guess. I kind of became the impersonations guy. It's what I do.
Well, I like it. You add some flavor. I'll say this before I let Brad comes in. You guys certainly had more flavor than the 2019-20 John Jay team. That John Jay team was very much, pedestrian. They were very, we're the vibe of the book. And listen, Highland's that kind of guy. You guys had some character. That's probably why I think I favored covering you guys a little more than that 20 team. No disrespect to them. But, Brad, I see that you want to jump in. I even have a comment from one of your teammates, Gordon, in a second I'll get to. But, Brad, you can go in and say whatever you want to Gordon. Ask him anything about those impersonations, whatever's on your mind, because I see, Brad, your face is ready to light up. So go ahead, Brad Weiss.
Well, let's
Brad.
There you go.
Are you doing it? Brad, are you doing an impersonation there?
I was gonna say,
Listen, I don't know what's going on right now. Let's see how much further I last here. But anyway, listen, I think the first thing we have to do right now, because first of all, with Gordon's impersonations, it's something to.
Brad, are you trying to impersonate working internet? Is that what you're trying to do?
I don't know what I'm trying to. I'm trying to talk right now, but listen. Can you do me a favor, Gordon, before I get this frozen off again? All right, can we do an impersonation of our guy we just had on the show? Because I think everyone needs to hear that. All right, Matt Hurd. Yeah, all right, can you give us an impersonation of a typical Matt Hurd?
I don't have a good Matt Hurt. Like Matt's like so like he's just like he's not vanilla, but he's like, oh, we lost Brad.
Well, guys, that's okay. I can hear it. I can hear you.
I don't really have a good Matt. Matt's kind of just like he's he's
very even. Yeah, he's very like even keeled, like very
he's just I don't have a great voice impression of Matt Hurt. The best people I've done. So obviously I do Tom Bryce. I do the Brute Force.
Listen, but you know what? My voice, Brad's one thing, but listen, I am used to my voice being impersonator because
you have a very unique voice. So
I know that. Listen, trust me. I am from Brooklyn, New York. I realize my voice gets impersonated in England and all the places. I have a voice that's very unique. Brad Weiss, are you alive?
Can we try this again? All right. I don't know. That is getting frustrating. All right. I don't know if you guys heard anything I said, but let me try again. All right. Because first of all, Gordon, like I said at the beginning of the show, you're obviously one of the masters of impersonations. I mean, the fact that you did it so well the last time we had you on the show with, what you guys did in the locker room and stuff like that. But I was saying before I got cut off like the 18th time, all right, I first really, because we had him on last week, can you give us some impersonation of Matt Hurd? Because we need to hear something from Matt. Something that Matt says or something that Matt does. Give us a good impersonation.
See, what I was saying while you were gone, Brad, is I don't have a great Matt because Matt is very he's just very even keel, kind of vanilla. Like I don't have a great voice impression of Matt.
I actually have a good one for you because he actually commented. I have a feeling this guy you can do his voice. Ryan.
Oh my gosh, Ryan, man. He's such a clown. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you want me to do it? I mean, I don't know. I could do kind of.
Come on,
do what you like. Do a player that you can do or a coach that you can do. If it's McSloy or he has
coaches.
Do the coaches. Because you know what? I those guys certainly they'll eat it up. Or maybe they'll eat it up in the wrong way. But I love to hear that.
All right.
Do you have a McNeely one? We gotta get one.
A McNeely one? It's not that good, honestly. It wouldn't be that good.
All right, give me a good one. I don't want to do a not so good one.
The coaches are the best ones. They get it.
All right, there we go.
So McSloy had one in the locker room after we lost to Westbury last year. And the guy's like, so he comes in the locker room, he's like folding a piece of paper up, or whatever, and he's like, "We just lost to a team that plays pickup. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Coach, I'm gonna be late. Gonna be late. Late. It adds up. How many guys are player development, Coach?" And Coach G's over in the corner over there, and he's like stammering. He's like, yeah, 1, 2 tops. Don't show up on Monday if you don't love it. Don't show up on Monday if you don't love it. I will send these coaches out recruiting every night. I'll cut this roster down to 8 if that's the Get out of here. Leave the locker room. Then he runs back in and goes, "And hey, I know it's hard. I know you guys commute, but that's what you signed up for when you came here." Leaves again. So that's what Sloy.
Oh man. What about Coach G? Yeah,
because we know he's coming back on. We know he's coming on.
Come on, I gotta hear you. Look, he's done his time. Come on, guys. Gotta make shots. Guys, come on.
That does sound like him, actually. That actually does sound like him.
Make shots. Let's go. Come on, guys. Come on. Just saying the same couple things. Billy Heenan, I can do. Billy's fellas, we gotta get a body on him. No more airballs. Why are we shooting airballs in practice? We gotta get rebounds. Gotta get all the plays. It's the 19th practice. Fellas, get him up. Gotta watch the Bengals. The Bengals play hard.
I knew he was going to the Bengals. I have to ask to cut it. Did you guys get sick of hearing about the Bengals, especially as the Bengals was getting to the Super Bowl last year? I mean, Billy must have been talking all the time about his podcast and talking about the Bengals and Joe Burrow, this and that. I mean, you guys must have been sick of hearing about the Bengals.
He's a big fan, but he didn't bore us too much with it. But I distinctly remember before one of our games, I think it was Merchant Marine. So the Bengals were in. I think this happened twice. Like they're playing like their playoff games. So like the AFC Divisional and the AFC Conference Championship, they're playing right as we're getting ready for a game.
Like, I think Matt spoke about that, Brad.
We're getting ready for a game, and Heenan, like the Bengals are playing, and we're watching it in the training room, and Billy's watching it all alone because his emotions are through the roof on it. And so I remember, like, I think both games they went on like a game-winning field goal or something, and we just hear Billy in the hallway like, yes! And we're, and we're going crazy for him, and he's like crying in the locker. And man, wild scene. But yeah, he wasn't too bad preachy wise. But yes, he is as diehard as they come when it comes to his Bengals for sure.
No, listen, I mean, we see it on social media all the time. I was even wondering, like, did he kind of, how can I put this, differentiate? Was he able to differentiate the team and the Bengals? Because, I would almost think sometimes who's he favoring over the other? I mean.
This is true. Good question.
All right,
we'll have to ask Billy one of these. Go ahead, Brad.
Can I ask for one more player? And then after the player, can you just give us your best impersonations of anyone? All right, but this one player, all right, and again, this is a random one, but let's see if you got anything for him. I may even ask for two. I'll ask for two. All right. One, Nick Nemekis. All right.
Ooh,
and two, Kevin O'Halloran. All right, we got to hear something about Kevin O'Halloran.
I'm trying to think. So Nick. Can I do Nick? It's not like a voice thing. Nick will just like sneak up behind you and be like, "Ooh, gee, what's going on, man? How you doing?" Ooh, and he'll like tap you on the shoulder and like just like he's just like bouncing all around you and like buzzes away. Like I don't have a good voice one for him. Kevin would just be like, "Let's go, fellas. Let's go. Finish, fellas. Finish the possession. Finish. Talk, finish." Just like I'm screaming the same. I'm like, yes, talk, finish. Okay, got it. Yeah. That's what Kevin used to do.
I remember that one. Yeah, I remember that. He said that a lot. He was always
that was the one always. It was the finish one. I do a very good so you guys don't know, but you know him. You remember from the team, but Marcin Termena, I do a good I know. So his goes like, "Yo, bro, like I was gonna play this year, but man, my Achilles got tore, bro. And I was banged up the whole year, man. But when I come back next year, bro, like I'm gonna get mad buckets on you, but play me in ones right now, bro. I will screw you." And then Basir Had has a very like distinct laugh. He has a very like funny, like I guess it's like a Queen's laugh or it's just his laugh. I don't know. So I would do his all the time. But my best is probably the Tom Bryce into the Brad Weiss. That's the best one for sure.
Because at this point, everybody wants to hear that because I know somebody's going to comment around the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest today on the Sports Report. And of course, I'm joined by the very own, the Brute Force, the Brad Weiss. Brute Force, talk to me. What are your thoughts on Matt Hurd and the St. Joe's Golden Eagles? Talk to me. What was it like playing with Matt Hurd? And just some of your thoughts on Matt Hurd, Brute Force. Go ahead. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Matt Hurd, a good buddy of mine. We go way back. Me and Matt, we would play ping pong together in the Van. And I'm not going to comment on my ping pong skills, but Matt was a great teammate. And, just a great teammate and a great friend of mine. And Matt Hurd's a great dude, man, for sure.
I think you nailed it, Brad. Like spot on. Can we have you?
Hold on, I gotta say, he's got me more spot on than you. He's got me like.
Yeah, because you know what? I'll tell you why. Because my voice, I get this all the time from people. Because I also have a background in politics, and there was a state senator that I used to do some work for, had a voice very similar to mine, and another Irishman from Marine Park in Brooklyn. Everybody used to say our voices were similar. Maybe that's why that's for a different time, different place. But my voice has a little bit more of a the Brooklyn, the New York City. Brad, you've got that certain. He nailed it. Listen, he nailed it.
Oh,
You
my
got him
God.
Friday nights 9:30. You want to take a
If
break?
I need anyone to like impersonate me or do some sort of like fun show, I got the guy. I got Gordon. So, oh man, no, he is perfect on me. I mean, just the start of it and how I always started. Yeah, Tom, he's got that down. He's got the middle down. I mean, he's got it all down. I mean, that was unbelievable. I really can't believe he's got it.
Do you have a second career that we don't know about? Is that what it is? Do you have a second career?
I don't, but I've thought about it very often. I've been told that maybe I should start pursuing this, but no, I don't have a second career at the moment. But no, it's like I said, it's just something
Do you want to go into stand-up comedy by any chance? I mean, I can certainly make connections for you. One of our friends, a guy Steve Saperstein, actually in a previous life was a stand-up comedian. Do you want to try that impersonation? Because I could certainly make
listen,
a
I'm
right
always
now.
up for anything that pays well. Listen.
Well, I don't know if it pays well, but it gives you an opportunity to meet people. You can meet some women, but I'll plead the fifth on that because obviously you're still, doing that. But speaking of the current team, and obviously we have some players that obviously are still a part of things. Matt, we've obviously spoke a little bit about in terms of the impersonations. But what was it like playing with a couple of players that I'm sure are going to be a huge part of this program going forward, specifically in Spencer Malloy and Alec Tabbitt? I mean, talk about. Did you see it from a mile away that these guys were going to go on? And certainly Alec, unfortunately, we didn't have for about half the season. But when it came to Malloy, I mean, Malloy, I think, is going to be right up there with some of the players all time in the school's history. A few of them Brad played with. I think maybe even have more success, certainly from a wins and losses standpoint. But, I mean, when it came to Malloy and Tabbitt, I mean, did you see it right away that these guys were just going to come in and do what they've done?
A little bit, yeah, because so I think first with Spencer, I think Spencer was so polished right away, for a young guy. Obviously, I guess I don't know if he's a sophomore / freshman when he played. The COVID thing is whatever, right? But technically, he's a first year guy, and he had such polished moves around the rim and just good footwork. He had go to scoring moves already, which Brad, I think you can kind of relate to. You don't really have that right away when you get into college, but he had ready moves, and he's really freaking strong. You don't realize because he's not he's tall, but he's not the tallest, but
yeah,
Spencer hits you, you move. I don't care how big you are. So I think I think I knew he'd be good, and I think obviously coming out of high school, he definitely had plenty of hype. But I think I'd be lying if I said I expected him to have as much success as he's had already. As a first year guy, he was first team all conference.
He's one of the best players in the entire conference. If you think about it, if it wasn't for Yeshiva, you could have made the case that Malloy would have had an outside shot. I know they will never give rookies the player of the year, but he would have certainly had an outside shot. I mean, if it wasn't for what Yeshiva had, I mean, he was that good.
Yeah, so I knew he was good, but I think even the amount of success he's had so far is still a little surprising. As good as I thought he was going to be right off the bat. And then Alec also the first time I played with Alec, I didn't get to see Alec play for the first time until right before the school year started. Alec disappeared for a while and then showed up one day and all of a sudden started killing it in pickup. And it was oh yeah, he's really good. But even him, I think he's more surprising because he was good in the beginning, but just his progression from day one of the season to the last game of the season, he went through the roof, his game. He has such an ability to just absolutely wreck a game. I think when we first saw him, I was yeah, he's athletic, good driver, right? Can grab rebounds. But then he's swatting shots. He's getting every steal.
Reminded me of LaGuardia a little bit. I said this on prior shows. He reminded me a little bit. He was athletic. He could rebound. He could jump. I mean, he could play a little bit from the outside. Kind of reminded me of your version of LaGuardia a little bit.
He really was. He was a younger version of Kyle. Super long, super athletic, can kind of do a little bit of everything. So yeah, Alec, I think again knew he'd be good. Just didn't think he'd be as good as he is right away. As we, he was great for us. He was rookie of the year. I think he might have been second team or something, but he was definitely rookie of the year.
I think he was second team because we were covering it.
So yeah, I think as good as they looked, I think they were definitely good to begin with, and I knew they were going to be special. I guess I don't think I was ready for them to be that good right away. And again, that's a testament to them. So.
Where do you see guys? Ryan McNeely was a guy that was kind of the sixth man of the team. He came on obviously at times last year in the Yeshiva game. We spoke about the Yeshiva game a lot with you, so I'm not really going to talk too much about that game just in the interest of time. But I mean, do you see like a Ryan McNeely sliding into the rotation next year? Because we asked Matt that question. I was curious. Obviously, Timmy comes back, who you played with, certainly. Ryan as well. Nick Nemekis, I think, will be a guy I'm really curious to see what happens with him in terms of maybe more time on the team. He's been here a couple years, but obviously kind of learning a little bit. It's obviously very competitive minutes wise. But I mean, where do you see maybe guys like a Ryan McNeely and even Matt's brother Timmy for next year's team?
Yeah, so I think Ryan, obviously, like last year, he was kind of like that sixth starter. Like he was usually like the first two guys off the bench. Same thing for us my freshman year. I mean, obviously, look, every year is different, right? And different guys come in, different guys progress, different guys fall off. I certainly think he has a great chance too. He's had two very good seasons so far with his time at St. Joe's. So he definitely will have a great chance to do so. I have no doubt he will be in the rotation in some capacity, whether he's starting, whether he's playing 30 minutes a night, whatever it may be. I know he'll be ready. He's got a good approach to the game. So I expect a lot of success for Ryan, just moving forward. He's obviously got a pretty good resume so far. And but I think he's definitely up for it. He's definitely up to move even further into the rotation than he already is, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's a guy that's going to be a consistent double-digit scorer here, and maybe even an outside shot at like 1,000 points. That's kind of what he's put himself in for. And I was curious in a way about asking of somebody that's remained on the team for a while, and almost kind of like who you were at Lebanon Valley. That's one of Brad's old teammates, Mark Roberts Jr. And I mean, this is a guy that's battled. I mean, he has been on this team. He's been on here for a while, and I mean, what was he like as a teammate? I mean, we've heard Coach Gordieso speak about him quite a bit. Obviously, Matt spoke about him. Obviously, Brad has played with him. And I was curious in terms of what was he like on the court and how a guy like this has kind of made you guys into what you've become here these last few years.
Yeah, so Mark, obviously Mark, I'm sure hasn't gotten all of the minutes he would have wanted these past few years, but Mark has, at least the year I was there, he was one of the best, if not the best, like guy in practice every game, because he would essentially just be like a wrecking ball defensively in practice. So like we would run sets like in scout, and Mark would like perfectly be able to emulate the other team defensively, or like he'd be able to kind of like throw us off our stuff. So Mark did a great job. Like Mark is a classic example of like he's pushing everyone on the front line, like the starters and the rotation guys. And listen, I would say most other schools, Mark is probably playing a lot of minutes. It goes to show the depth at like the forward and the center's position, like the last 2 years that St. Joe's has had. I mean, there's a lot of guys.
You guys had Ferrafino. Ferrafino wasn't even on the team last year. It's a perfect example, right? I mean, Malloy was one of the best players in the conference. If there's no Malloy, Ferrafino probably plays a whole bunch of minutes. His career is different at St. Joe's. I mean, he's a guy probably, like you said, maybe victim of the circumstances, but he still hasn't complained, and he's made you guys, I think, a better team.
100%. Yeah. His work ethic in practice, and like doesn't really complain. Like he just kind of goes about his business. He's like quietly funny too. Like doesn't say a whole lot, but when he talks, like it's usually something kind of funny.
And I hear he's a great ping pong player, by the way.
The ping pong tales I've heard are pretty well documented here on
I think I had to ask you that. I wanted to because it's going to get right under Brad's skin here, because I'll bring it to Brad in a second. But I mean, I hear he's like one of the greatest ping pong players in school history.
So I've never seen the ping pong skills firsthand. Again, they took away the ping pong with the COVID. What else is new?
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, don't get me started. But Mark's a great teammate. I hope he continues to stick with it. And I always tell those guys, like, man, if you keep doing the right things, keep working hard, like good things happen for people like that. So I think Mark's going to be an example of that for sure.
Absolutely, no question about that. As we are here with the legendary Gordon Shouler, of course, who played for our beloved SJLI Golden Eagles men's basketball team. You can follow Gordon again on Instagram at Gordon_Shouler05, also G_Shouler05 on Twitter as well, SJLI_M B-ball on Instagram and Twitter as well. Hanging out with him for a little while longer. Alongside him is the brute force Brad Weiss, my name. you may or may not know by now is the Reverend Tom Bryce. But Brad, I want to give it to you as we transition toward the end of the show here with Gordon, obviously having a lot of fun with him, and certainly look forward to maybe doing some pre and post game stuff during the season for our Golden Eagles, which is crazy as it sounds. We're about less than 7 months away from the season starting. So I'm already got my calendar. I'm marking the calendars down at this point because I don't know what my life's been like this last month without you guys playing on the court. So, but that's for a different topic here. But Brad, I want to give you the opportunity to ask Gordon a question because I am sure you've got a lot on your mind, a lot to say as you always do. And I mean, what do you want to say?
Oh, yeah. Well, I always have the out-of-the-box questions, the ones that, you ain't expecting. Matt was, not really expecting me to talk about his issues with having spoons and potato chips. He wasn't expecting me to bring that up. All right. And by the way, I have to witness that from Matt. All right. But ultimately, I always have interesting questions. So the first one is definitely this. You already gave me a context clue, by the way, Gordon, because we've actually had a player on here like you and many players at St. Joe's. We had on Tom Bryce, Sydney Mountain, who really likes her Chick-fil-A for sure. And I saw your cup.
I noticed that. I saw your cup. I was in the Staten Island Mall today, and I was thinking about ordering Chick-fil-A, but the line was too long, and I wanted to make it on time today.
Right, so my question is this, because I see that your favorite meal is Chick-fil-A nuggets. All right, so I want you to talk about Chick-fil-A, how much you like it, and also, did you guys have the luxury like we did to get Chick-fil-A sometimes after games?
So we did get Chick-fil-A, I believe, once. We got it after our last game of the regular season. We got it on the way home from Mount St. Vincent's, I believe. So we did get it one time. It was always tough for us because we had the weird rule with the COVID where we weren't allowed to eat on the bus. Like, I don't know if COVID spreads more on the bus or whatever, but we weren't allowed to eat on the bus. So I think it made the Chick-fil-A like a little bit tougher. But we did get that one game. Chick-fil-A is one of the greatest companies on planet Earth. Their food is phenomenal. They opened one, like, no joke, 1 minute for me, like, I want to say 2 years ago now. And it's been unreal. I'm definitely one of the leaders in the Tri-State area in Chick-fil-A points on the app. I eat there quite a bit. But yeah, Chick-fil-A is not fast food. It's soul food.
No, it's not. That I agree with you, because I have actually gone out with a girl last year to Chick-fil-A in the Staten Island Mall, and we did not feel like McDonald's or Burger King. I agree with you.
No, it is its own category. Chick-fil-A is the best. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, I am a huge stan of Chick-fil-A. There was a brief period of time during COVID where I was like trying to find a job or wherever. I thought about working at Chick-fil-A, but apparently you have to shave your beard if you work at Chick-fil-A.
I'm not one to talk, by the way, as you can
like
see.
The Yankees?
Right. So yeah, apparently got to shave your beard. So I was not really about that. But I love Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, I don't have enough good things to say about Chick-fil-A, frankly.
Okay.
Man, all right. That's why I had to ask the question. You see, now we know.
Brad. I like that one.
We found the fun fact that he's one of the leaders in points, rewards points. I thought I had a lot of
I have to say, I'm impressed with that one, Brad. I like that one.
I thought I had a lot of points, but I'm sure Gordon probably more.
I would go toe-to-toe with just about anybody in the points category.
I believe that.
All right, now, speaking of another thing that we already referred to earlier in the show, all right? We talked about Billy Heenan's loving for the Bengals, all right? And I see it right behind you, all right? And I saw it on your bio, too, that you are a guy, first of all, number one, that second their most favorite sport besides basketball was football. So I got to ask you about what your background was in football growing up. But you're also a Denver Broncos fan. So you got to explain to the viewers why you're a Broncos fan, and then also your feelings on Mr. Russell Wilson this past season.
All right, so
boy, Brad really laid it into him.
So I became a Broncos fan. Kind of one of those weird things, right? The Broncos won the Super Bowl the year I was born. I love the colors, the orange and blue. And I used to play the Madden 07 game, the one with Sean Alexander on the cover.
I remember that. Yes, I do remember that.
You used to be able to use like the all historic teams, like you could play with the Broncos and the best guys from the Broncos be on the team. So I would play with my dad, and my dad took the Broncos one time. He's using John Elway, obviously. And my dad, like, who's not even a Broncos fan, just started gassing up John Elway. He's like, yeah, John Elway could, like, run to one side of the field and throw it to the other side. And I don't know. It just stuck with me. It's one of those weird things where from that point on, all those things, I became a Bronco fan. So I've been a pretty diehard fan since I was probably like 6-7 years old. As for Russell Wilson, listen, obviously not a very good year this year for him, but I don't blame him nearly as much as I blame our atrocious coach from last year.
Oh, my God, that coach.
Maybe the worst coach I've ever seen in NFL history, and that's not an exaggeration. And I called it from night one, from the very first game, I was like, this is a disaster. Our whole season was a disaster. So I want to see Russell Wilson with someone who's halfway competent. Before I make a final determination on Russell Wilson, I think.
Well, not for nothing. They were 2/3. The Broncos were 2/3 of the season. I think the top 10 in the league in defense.
We had a great defense last year.
Yeah, defense was good.
So, I want to see him with someone who can actually call a play within the allotted play clock time. Nathaniel Hackett could not do that for whatever reason. So I won't make any big determinations about Russell Wilson until I see him with Sean Payton this year, which I'm excited about. But Nathaniel Hackett, yeah.
Well, I'll say this: you definitely have told me plenty on my new offensive coordinator now with the Jets because I'm a Jets.
Yeah, fan. I don't know what you guys were thinking. You got. I don't know what you guys.
I don't think even the Jets know what they're thinking right now.
That's why you're the Jets. Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll wait to see, but we haven't seen any success, so we're hoping for anything. So I don't know what we're doing. We're going with. I don't even know what we're doing. But anyway, Gordon, did you actually play football growing up? Was that actually an interest of yours?
No, I never played football growing up. I had an interest to play it. I guess it was kind of always well, if you play football, you're kind of small. A fat guy might fall on you, and at that point, you're kind of screwed. But no, I kind of always leaned towards basketball. I actually played baseball first, kind of like t-ball. Then I got into basketball. Then I ended up liking basketball just so much more than baseball, so I gave up baseball. And then had a brief tennis career at the very end of my.
That was my next question.
No background in football other than I just enjoy watching it. I watch on Sundays.
Yeah, all right. So you see, he's stealing my thunder now. He's reading my notes. All right.
We're going to have him back on for the pre and post game shows next.
Oh, absolutely. But that was my last question because I had to bring it up. All right, because I know, and again, it's actually crazy how many basketball players are now playing tennis. I mean, you talk about Ryan McNeely, Nick Nemekis. I believe who else is playing this year? It's
Chris Connors play tennis
and Jake Audiello is playing.
Audiello too. Yeah, I knew it was more. So anyway. You weren't actually a bad tennis player, Gordon. I mean, I'm looking at all second team skyline. I mean, I'm looking at some good things on your resume here. So I wanted to talk about first what got you into tennis. Why did you end up going on the team? And then how you actually started to like tennis and now how much do you enjoy it and do you play it on your own now?
Yeah, so I kind of always watched tennis. My dad likes tennis. He just watching it again, never played. So I would always watch it. I just never played it. A couple times, I would go to the park and maybe mess around with my buddy. But again, we had no idea what we're doing. We're just hacking at the ball. But I watched. I knew the general gist of the game. So I always had a little bit of an interest. So then basically, my career ends. My basketball season ends. I have a lot more time in my hands. And the men's tennis team is DMing people on Instagram, begging people to play.
I heard about that.
A breathing body to show up to practice, just sliding in people's DMs, trying to get people to play. And I'm sitting there going, I don't really have much better going on. I'm just working now and finishing up grad school. My basketball career is over. I know a little bit about tennis. Sounds kind of interesting. What the hell? So I answered. I showed up. And the rest is kind of history. It was honestly one of the most fun decisions I ever made. Just going to play tennis. And it was a blast. I really enjoyed it. I was able to convince Ryan McNeely, who was then able to convince Marchin to join the team. It was just a great experience. And it'd always be a really funny thing because I never played tennis formally before that. Again, went to the park a couple times, messed around, but no formal teaching or coaching in that area. But listen, the second team all conference,
Yeah, damn. You must have done well, Gordon. That's nothing too shabby. Second team all conference. You did well. You won a weekly honor roll thing too. That's not all right. Well, I just jumped on the team and played. You actually jumped on the team and had success.
Yeah.
That's hard, especially from somebody who doesn't play it, doesn't practice it. What happened, Gordon? Just talk to us. Was it coaching? Was it you getting into it? What was it? Did you have a tennis player that you started watching and you like a lot? What was it?
My favorite tennis player is Rafael Nadal, but I'm not going to pretend I can emulate anything he can do. I'll give a shout out to the coaching. They definitely, I think they understood the situation. They're okay, he's here for 1 year. He's never played tennis before. Let's simplify this and just give him the basics. So, credit to them. I don't know. I think there was no pressure. I was just out there having fun. I'm an athlete. I'm a competitive person in general. I play hard in everything I do. So I think I just through whatever athleticism I have and all the effort I had behind it, and kind of just like started getting confident with it. Probably like just like unreasonable confidence, frankly. Like I won a couple, like I won a match, like my second one, and I like all of a sudden my confidence was like so stupidly unnecessarily high because again I was just like I'm just out there running around having a good time, but sure enough I start winning, and now I'm getting pissed when I miss a shot, and like so, yeah, I think just the competitive nature takes over, and they're really, again, no pressure, just free, going out there having fun. So yeah, I couldn't really explain it to you. I don't know. I really don't have a good explanation for you. It's one of the great mysteries. I don't really know either.
That is crazy because I'll say this. Like Gordon, I actually, like, my friends asked me to play tennis after my career, just that for fun, and I can't even keep it on the damn court. I mean, I always hit it out of bounds. I always hit it somewhere where it's not supposed to be hit. I mean, it's not easy. Like, that's a tough sport to play too.
Yeah, that's a sport. I even remember, that is a very difficult sport. And, I remember even as a kid getting a tennis racket as a kid. I must have been in the 5th or 6th grade one year. And I lived near a park at the time growing up in Brooklyn. And I always actually wanted to play tennis because I would watch the U.S. Open. I'm like, wow, look what these guys do. And there was an exercise they would have. It was called baseball tennis, where you'd hit the ball and kind of hit to the wall and back and forth. And I always thought it was fun, but I could never quite get the hang of tennis. And that's so fascinating. You walk on and become a really good tennis player. I mean, that's like, who does that?
I don't know, man. Again, I just watching it and just having fun with it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
All right, Tom, hold on. One more. I got one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
One more question. All right. Because we alluded to it earlier, and I got to ask the question because obviously you got me, you got Matt Hurd, you got Ryan McNeely, all right, that are all coaches, and Gordon has his father as a coach, right? I know you spoke about those parents, and trust me, I know because I work with plenty of parents, but Gordon, there's got to be a future for you in coaching. What are you thinking about doing there? Are you potentially thinking about becoming a coach? I don't know what level, but is coaching on your mind? Like, I think it's something that you'd obviously be pretty good at. You're a leader. You talk well, right? You know the game
very well.
I mean, you'd be a great candidate. So talk about coaching as a potential another fit for you maybe in the future.
I got to be honest. I get asked that question a lot, obviously, because of my dad and my background. I got to be honest. I really don't see it for myself. I think for me, being a coach's son, you get a very front row view to everything that goes into being a coach. And I think more and more now, especially, just the things that coaches have to deal with, from parents, from administrators, from the type of players we have nowadays, is so nauseating. I think I've seen so much on that end of things, like with my dad, and I know me as a player, like I'm super competitive, like super hard worker. So I think I would struggle to, be able to deal with parents in a diplomatic way. I could deal with them in other ways, not a diplomatic way. But then like dealing with players too, like if a player didn't like want to be there, like is going half-assed, like I wouldn't know what to do because like I was never like that. So I think for me, I've seen so much of it where I want to be in the sports world. I think the benefit of coaching is that it's the next closest thing to playing after you're done playing. And I guess that's the appeal for me because obviously I miss playing. But I think for me, I would much rather be more on the executive side of things, kind of like pulling the strings behind the scenes, more in the front office role, which is what I do now. It's kind of how I got into what I'm doing. But yeah, I did do a little bit of coaching in the fall. We had an okay team. We had a couple wins. And I was pretty good at it. I was pretty solid. But yeah, I just think for whatever reason, I think it's probably not in my future. Just not where my interest lies. I think I'm better served on the other side of things, hiring the coaches, getting the good coach in there to help lead to success. So, it's a good question. I get it a lot. And I thought about it and obviously I think I could be good at it, but probably going to stay away from the coaching for the sake of my blood pressure, I would say.
Oh yeah. There's definitely a high brush test. There are a lot of patience that has to be exuded. I mean, it's a tough job. You really, you got to really be invested in. You got to be able to deal with different. I mean, it is tough. But listen, your job is tough too, Gordon. So you definitely got to talk to us about that as well, like your job at Stony Brook and what that entails and how that's going and what kind of your role is there. So tell our audience about that.
Yeah, so I work in the athletic department at Stony Brook University. So more specifically within the athletic department, I work in the business office. So I've still yet to find a great, like, simple way to describe exactly what I do.
You said that last time you were on the show. Remember you saying the same thing then?
The easiest way, the simplest way I can put it to you is I kind of handle all of the money and the financial pieces of Stony Brook Athletics. So all of our university affiliated teams, so men's basketball, football, women's basketball, all those teams, I'm behind the scenes working on the financial piece of it, the accounting, the operational side of it. So kind of helping manage our money, so to speak. So that's what I do predominantly right now. Just kind of helping, budget, making sure coaches have everything they need, on the road when they're traveling, when they're out recruiting. That role is continuing to like evolve and expand, obviously, with with NIL and all this other crazy stuff. But yeah, kind of just basically handling the financial piece of our athletic department. That's what I do.
Awesome.
It's really interesting. You had such, before I get to a couple of comments here, you had such an interesting background, such a fascinating career. If you think about it,
Appreciate
right?
it.
Lebanon Valley. No, I mean, listen, I speak with people from all backgrounds. So if I'm telling you you're interesting because there's people that I speak with from all over the world, literally. And your background is like really cool. You think about it. Lebanon Valley, 3 years, goes in St. Joe's. Now you're at Stony Brook, Division I university on the business side. And I mean, I have a couple of questions here to lighten the mood before we get to closing thoughts. First, are you playing Fortnite later?
100%. I will definitely be playing Fortnite later.
All right, so we'll make sure that we close out here very soon to let you go play Fortnite. So we'll do that, and also
no, I'm not in any rush. Listen, Ryan can't wait.
Okay, all right, well, still.
I'm not in a rush. I will play Fortnite though later. Don't worry.
Okay, well, I can imagine.
Speaking of Ryan McNeil, he's of coaching, by the way. I might be seeing him in Herd soon. So
nice,
yeah, we're going to be probably scrimmaging soon. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be in their tournament soon enough. So Gordon, you're out there, so you might have to come down and watch us go at it. But but listen, Ryan's a cool dude. But Fortnite, come on, man, really?
Typically for us, it's either Fortnite or Rocket League. Me and Ryan play a lot of video games. We're very close now. He's a good friend.
It's funny you said Fortnite because that reminds me, and you guys appreciate this. In the past, we've interviewed a lot of professional baseball players, a lot of the minor league guys in the Mets organization. And I remember asking there's a lot of these players in the Mets organization. I asked him, well, what do you do on your downtime? And they would wind up saying Fortnite. So actually, it's a way, when I guess you can't go anywhere. You don't make enough money to go out. It's almost like, well, I can kill 3-4 hours and just sit there and kind of relax, not thinking about going out there. Because these guys, they're in AA and AAA, so they've got a lot on their mind. Like you guys, student athletes. And I kind of think that's a lot of interesting similarities there. And the Brew Force, your father actually chimes in here, and he says, maybe Gordon wants to try and be your assistant. Is this what this is, Brad? Are you trying to recruit Gordon to be your assistant?
What is this?
Is that what it is here, Brad?
Well, here's the thing, though, because my dad is my assistant, so he's trying to campaign to get off the job because his pay grade isn't that great. So but listen, I have James D. Simone as well as my assistant, and that's another guy we might talk to. So. Listen,
yes.
At this point, I'm going to be like John Jay and have a staff of 7 assistants. So, I mean, if you want to come on.
You know what? And I have to say, that was the running joke. I would get messages from people, and this would be off the air, different coaches and different stuff like that. And I actually have to ask you one more question before we get to closing. So speaking of coaches, I have to ask it. But people would ask me, does John Jay really have like 17 coaches on staff? I'm like, yeah, I actually met the whole staff when I was going to their games, and he would just have this person on for that position and that position and that position. I mean, it was almost like, I think the joke I used to use on the shows when I would speak with those guys, it was almost like a presidential cabinet, I would say to Highland. I mean, Highland enjoyed the comment because obviously it made him feel good. And Highland would always remind me about that comment. But yeah, that was fascinating. But, before I get to closing thoughts here, I wanted to ask you, because you brought up Kings Park, and obviously, when I think of Kings Park, immediately I think about Mike McSloy, your former coach. Obviously, you have a long relationship with McSloy. I remember McSloy mentioning you to me off the air before you came in, around the time you came in. And I had to ask you, in terms of, what the role he played in not only your life, but also here coming to SJLI, because obviously there was a long established relationship that you had with Mike McSloy before you came to our Golden Eagles.
Yeah, my relationship with Coach McSloy is really awesome. It's really unique, too. So, Coach McSloy played for my dad at high school when I was sitting on my dad's bench at 7 years old. They won the Long Island Championship at Kings Park. So that's where I met Coach McSloy. Then obviously Coach McSloy keeps in touch with my dad, playing through college, becomes a college coach, bounces around as an assistant. We keep tabs on him. I don't hear from him like super often. Then I see him at a scrimmage when I'm at Lebanon Valley and he's at Gettysburg. So we scrimmage each other. So I see him for the first time in years, which is that alone was crazy. Like seeing him there, like after so many years, I was 7, he was 17, last time I saw him. So that happens. Then he gets the job at St. Joe's. I saw him, once in between then, when he got the job at Joe's before his first season, talked to him a little bit. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Coach McSloy, I owe him a lot for giving me a chance at St. Joe's. Obviously things weren't going the way I wanted it at Lebanon Valley. And, I decided I need to kind of get out of there. And, frankly, I didn't have a lot of tape or a lot of stats on me at that point. So my options were pretty limited, but obviously I did know Coach McSloy. St. Joe's was back home. It had the master's program I wanted. So, I reached out to Coach McSloy. I was like, listen, I'm looking to get out of here. I'm looking at your school. It has the program I want. Listen, if you think I can, I don't want any favors. That was the first thing I said to him when I called him. I said, I don't want any favors. Don't take me because we have a relationship or because we have history together. Like I only want you to agree to this unless you think I can come in next year and help you on the court. Like I was very adamant about that. I didn't want any favors from him. I wanted brutal honesty. And obviously he jumped all over it and brought me aboard. And yeah, I think our relationship was a big part of our team's success that year. He had a lot of trust in me. I had trust in him. Obviously, it's really cool. I think him and I both got to help really turn around that program. And that was, I think, part of why, he brought me in and part of why they brought him in is like, he's like, listen, when you get here, we might not be, this championship contending team year in and year out. Obviously you only have 1 year, but there's like this unspoken understanding that like, yeah, you're going to come in and might not be a championship team right away, but you can help lay the foundation and turn it around. So that way we can be championship teams down the road. So I owe a lot to Coach McSloy. I'm super thankful to him. And the running joke now is, so he played for my dad. I played for him. So now the joke is when I become an athletic director, hopefully I'm going to hire him as the basketball coach at the I'm working at. So if we can pull that one off, that will be really impressive. It's going to be down the road. But so that's the running joke for now.
I would never say never. And you know what? And that matches a lot before we get to closing thoughts about, I think, what McSloy brought to the program. I know we spoke about this with Matt. Obviously, Brad also played with Coach McSloy, but I think in a short amount of time, what he did, and I'll say it again, kind of what you provided on the court, I think was that leadership that was lacking here for the program. And again, no disrespect to some of the teams that Brad had played on, but I don't think quite that there was that leadership, that stability. And I think what McSloy did was kind of lay the foundations of that stability, have an identity. And I don't think that the program had an identity until McSloy came here, and especially the team you were on in 21-22, I think started to play basketball the way he wanted to and play a defensive style and play a team-oriented game and have a team that has a lot of depth and have kind of a team that can do different things, play different roles. Obviously, you were huge because you clinched a lot of games for us with your free throw shooting, despite what Gordieso might say. And, and I think, look, we won 22 games in the last 2 years in the Skyline Conference. So take a step back, right? This program, I don't know, in the last 4 years prior, had they won 22 games? I mean, so to win 22 games in the Skyline Conference the last 2 years, back-to-back seasons of 500 or better, back-to-back appearances in the Skyline Conference playoffs. I mean, it's really McSloy's leadership. I mean, he didn't really, what did he have, 1 year to recruit? He came in, Brad, your year in 19, didn't really have a chance to recruit. You had COVID, couldn't really recruit. So basically, what did he have? 1 year, if that, of recruiting. So, I mean, what he did here in a short amount of time and took a team that, again, nobody saw was going to win 15 games, double the win total, defeat a nationally ranked team, blow out teams defensively. What you guys did in the second half, it just was really impressive. And I think you really were in a lot of ways, to me, the stir that straws that drinking. And I say this, and I said it many times on the air, and that's why we really wanted to have you on tonight and kind of tell that story. And obviously we look forward to having you on many more times and certainly talk more about the future of the program, anything else you're doing, whether it's impersonations, hopefully more impersonations to come. I know, Brad, that was the only reason he wanted you on tonight. No, I'm just kidding. But, obviously everything you do, you are, one of our favorites. I mean, I would say it over and over. I mean, Liam Shee was this year's team, but you were last year's team. But I think in a lot of ways, your impact is going to go a lot longer than the 1 year you played here. And I think that speaks to the character of who you are, but also to Mike McSloy, really. Mike McSloy, I got to be honest, a big supporter of ours on Sportswire, gave me an opportunity to speak with him. And I said it last time on the show with Matt Hurt, called me up right before Christmas. And after you guys had won a game in a tournament, I think you guys were up in a tournament, I think was it New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. I forget where it was, Brad, but you guys had come 1-1 in a tournament. You were 5-4 at the time. And he said, hey, I'd like to speak with you. And, obviously, that kind of led to our relationship here at St. Joe's and Brad and you and everybody else. And I'm forever indebted to Coach McSloy, and just like I'm indebted to the whole team for their support. But obviously, we could talk all day with you, but we won't let you go to Fortnite and Rocket League. But Brad Weiss, I want to go first and let you have some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to share? Say, obviously, we'll see each other on Thursday with Jesse Winter. I'm sure we'll be planning that very shortly, and maybe some more guests on the pike. Maybe Coach Gordieso soon. Who knows what the future brings? Maybe we'll ask him about Gordon's impersonation of him. I think Gordon probably does a better voice than Coach D does. But I'm going to give you the opportunity, Brad, to walk it back a little bit and say anything else you like, anything else you want to plug, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, Tom, thank you for having us on. Thank you, Gordon, for joining us and being back on again. We appreciate not only you coming on, but the support that you and the team have had for us throughout the years. And we hope to have those pregame shows next year where we can talk about the team. That's something that I'm really looking forward to. So
Me too.
Thank you for coming on. And it's a lot of fun talking to you, man. So even though we don't really know each other as well, but we're going to get to know
we do, though. It's funny.
It's coming. The chemistry's here. But, listen, I want to thank you again for coming on. Of course, if you want to follow me, you can find me on Instagram at bweiss20 and at Coach Brad Weiss, Twitter at BradWeiss20, and Facebook, Bradley Weiss. So a few things I'd like to say. Number one, I definitely want to give a shout out to Coach McSloy, as you guys just did. Obviously, you guys know how I feel about him. I was honored to have gotten to be the first guy that got to speak to him when he took the job at St. Joe's, and the job that he did, followed by obviously our great new coach, Coach Uhl, who I really look forward to hearing from as well in the future, hopefully on our show as well. And again, Coach Gordieso, Coach Heenan. I mean, we've had a lot of great coaches in this program over the last few years. And it's been, again, just a great program to now see as an alumni, to now see the success, what we're doing, how we're growing. And I'm just so proud of what we're doing. And that's why we have guys like Gordon, why we have Matt Hurd and other guys coming on the show, because we really love what this program is doing. And obviously myself as an alumni, it's just awesome to see all these guys coming on the show and seeing the success that we're building. So I want to thank everybody with the SJLI, all the guys who support us on the team, all the coaches. Even now, I heard the trainers listening to us last week. Tom told us. So, I mean, everybody, we want to thank you guys for your support of our show. With that being said, I talked about the growth of the program. So I actually want to give a shout out today because there was a player who committed to St. Joe's today, and that is Kenny Rodriguez of East Islip. All right, he committed to St. Joe's. I want to give him a shout out here on this show and congratulate him on joining the SJLI family. Another great player that Coach Uhl is bringing in, so I'm looking forward to that. And I want to give him a shout out. On a somber note, I do want to also give my sorrows to one of my teammates who I had at St. Joe's. His name is Matt Lavin. Matt Lavin.
Oh, yes, I remember Matt Lavin. Yes, I do.
Matt Lavin was a teammate of mine for a few seasons. Unfortunately, today I found out that his mother had passed today. I want to make sure I, extend my prayers to his family. Obviously, he was a great kid, great guy. I couldn't feel worse for him today because I know what he's going through. I also have a connection with him through one of our level up coaches, Coach Julian Kleesler, who's a good friend of his. So I want to make sure, I don't want to end it on a somber note, but Matt's a good guy. He deserves it. He's one of my favorite teammates when he was here, Matt Lavin. He was just
I remember talking about him on the team. Yes.
Yeah, tough defender, tough, gritty kid, never complain. And just, I just feel for him today. So I want to make sure I definitely reach out in my prayers to his family and him. I also want to mention, by the way, Tom, I should mention this since we're still on this SJLI comments. I actually got to speak to a guy who had a birthday And that was Jonah Caldwell this past weekend.
Oh, Jonah.
And Jonah Caldwell, another one of my favorite teammates of all time, one of the nicest guys. Even though he would give me fits in practice because he was freakishly athletic and could dunk and was extremely difficult to defend. And obviously he was tough to score on, which made me better as a player. Jonah's doing great as well now. And I actually spoke to him, Tom, and another guy who actually is interested in coming on the sports.
He is? I would love to speak with Jonah.
So
Absolutely.
Another Golden Eagle who wants to come on as an alumni. So it's awesome.
Good.
To hear that. And again, we look forward to Jonah. I want to wish him a happy birthday and definitely give him a shout out because, again, one guy who, speaking of dealing with adversity, this guy was a guy who I could always lean on to have those tough conversations, those moments where we were struggling. We always leaned on each other to really push and go through and not give up like we talked about earlier. So I want to give Jonah a shout out. He's one of the guys who kind of unsung heroes, one of the biggest games in SJLI history against Yeshiva. One of the best games I've ever seen. So
yeah, I know. He wound up, he scored 29 points in that game or something?
Yeah, he was. I didn't play much, but that game was unbelievable.
You didn't need to. Jonah was starting for us. Why would you take this opportunity from him?
Exactly. So he was fantastic. I want to give him a shout out. So again, thank you, Gordon, for coming on. Thank you for your great impersonation. I know my guy I'm going to for impersonations. And I look forward to seeing you soon, whether it's at a game, maybe even a men's league game. We'll probably find each other. We'll find it out. But again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for supporting our show. We're looking forward to many more going forward.
Absolutely. Amen to all that. And I want to, before I go to Gordon, give my condolences to Matt Lavin. Obviously, so sorry to hear that. It's just, you don't wish that on anybody, and my thoughts and prayers to Matt, and certainly though. But on a lighter note, Jonah, would love to have Jonah on. Jonah's a guy I've always wanted to have on the show, so to have him and talk about his journey, played professionally also a little bit as well, so I'd like to be able to do that. So obviously, please follow the Brew Force though at BWise20, BradWise20, and hear him Thursday night with Mr. Jesse Winter, Mr. Winterfresh himself. But certainly, Gordon, I want to give you the opportunity for some closing thoughts. Anything you want to say to anybody that supported you, anybody that's on the team, anybody else that's out there that might be, wanting to hear a few more final thoughts from you. And very, very honored to have had the opportunity to speak with you tonight on Sportzwire Radio. Looking forward to many more ahead with you. Certainly, when the season kicks off, we'll do some pre-game coverage or post-game coverage. We'll make it happen with all of our schedules. Can't wait, counting the days already to the start of the season. And fire away, my friend. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? The floor is now yours.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on the show. It's always a blast. So first thing I want to do, I just want to say thank you. Obviously tonight we talked predominantly about me, but I just want to say thank you to everyone associated with our program at St. Joe's the year I was there. All my teammates, my teammates were awesome. Obviously we talked about me, but my teammates, we don't have that season. I don't have the season I have without all of them, without
Amen.
The coaches, the trainers, every single one of them top to bottom. I could say something great about every single player, every single coach, every single trainer. It was such a joy to be around all the people associated with that program. And I owe them a lot of thanks because they gave me a lot of great memories for my season at St. Joe's. So super appreciative of them, and just want to give all of them top to bottom a shout out. Thank you to everyone who's just been involved and helped me get to the point I got to from a basketball standpoint. It takes a village, right? It's so many different people across so many different parts of my life. So thank you to everybody who's kind of helped be a part of it. Then I have a couple plugs because I was unprepared last time. So
good. I like that.
So first of all, follow anything Stony Brook Athletics. I think on Instagram they're at SB Athletics. So everything Stony Brook Athletics, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that. Follow them. Stony Brook Athletics. See what the Seawolves are up to. Also, give a big follow to Limbo.Baby. It's my buddy's band. All right. They're called Limbo Baby. I don't know where they got the name, but they're awesome. It's a great name. All right. They do a bunch of shows around the city, different parts of the city, a little bit on Long Island.
Well, can I throw something out there for you for the bands
Sure.
you mentioned this? Because I actually have interviewed a lot of bands on Sportswire. I have a music background a little bit, and we play music on our internet dial. If the band wants to come on, I'll make sure I specifically cut this little part and would love to talk to the band. I mean, what kind of music do the band play?
I think they're just like a rock band. I think they're just basic, just playing good music, having a good time. But they're awesome. I've been to a couple of their shows. They're great.
All right. I'm interested. Well, I'm interested. So, I mean,
follow Limbo Baby, Limbo.Baby on the gram. They're awesome.
I'm going to do that after we get off. Sure. Okay.
And the very last thing, last but not least, I want you to go on Instagram and I want you to follow at Swing the Salt. Swing the Salt is a new endeavor created by yours truly and St. Joe's teammate Ryan McNeely. We are entering a new space here. We're essentially going to be creating a channel, so to speak. Not going to give too many details on what we're going to be doing, but more to come on that. So give that a. We're going to be doing probably some podcasts and some streaming stuff. So we're looking to maybe take off with that a little bit. So give it a follow. It's Swing the Salt.
I just followed it. And for those that might want to certainly support, go to YouTube as well. They have a YouTube page at Swing the Salt. Also, go subscribe there. Also, they have a TikTok page and a Twitch page. So if you are into all that stuff, support them in any audio, any content. Of course, we can certainly play that on sportnarium.com/play. For those that like to hear things on the radio without the video, we do have that opportunity because, well, I run the dial. So anything I can do to promote. Also, Limbo Baby was the band. We'll make sure to support them as well. And anything else, Stony Brook Athletics certainly knows Stony Brook very well because an alumni from SJLI also played there years ago as a football player, Matt Weeks. And Matt Weeks had an interesting career there. So we love Stony Brook, and anything we can do to support those that support us and support friends like Gordon, we're all in for. So, and also Gordon Scheuer on Gordon_Scheuer05 on Instagram. G_Scheuer05 on Twitter. That's also where we can find you on those social media pages.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again. Appreciate it. It's always a good time. And looking forward to some future visits.
Absolutely. If you want to promote the endeavors, I'm happy to do those interviews as well. So I'm willing to do anything. Listen, I've always been told that anything to do anything. And ladies and gentlemen, the golden era is now upon us. And you have heard from Gordon Scheuer, the legendary SJLI Golden Eagle, now with our Stony Brook athletics program. He's doing a great job there in the business department side of things, and allowing me to talk about his journey, which led him from Smith down west to Stony Brook, and in between, of course, our beloved Golden Eagles, who had that historic 15-win season, 12 of those big wins, and the Skyline Conference, including that historic win at the Max Stern Athletic Center last year against the nationally ranked Yeshiva, is the brute force Brad Weiss, 27th all-time in school history and rebounds, at the top of the list all-time in block shots. Also the head coach for our Plainview boys, JV basketball team. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'll be back coming up Wednesday night with coverage for our Tri-State Admirals basketball team, a who's who of players, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tune in. You won't want to miss it. But in the meantime, if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you can go back to your regular scheduled program, and please follow the Golden Eagles SJLI_MB Bowl. SJLI_MB Bowl. Thank you, everybody. Good night on the number one